We are back on the record. I need a motion to adjourn from an executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Vetter,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Aye.
Mayor Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Homan,
Aye.
Commissioner DeBras.
Aye.
Mayor, may I be added to the record that I arrived at executive session 1 minute late?
5:31, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let it add to the record.
In 10 seconds.
In 10 seconds, that's right. All right, next on our agenda is a proclamation for teachers, appreciation of teachers. Whereas through their dedicated efforts to ensure our children learn the knowledge and skills needed to be successful in higher education, careers, and life, teachers are vital in helping build the future. And whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service. And whereas teachers play a crucial role in shaping our children into the people they will become, supporting them through their youth and teaching lessons that will have an impact on students they will carry through life. And whereas our community recognizes and supports teachers in educating the children of this community. And now, therefore, I, Chris Lee, Mayor of the City of Piqua, Ohio, on behalf of the City of Piqua, Ohio, and with the help of Commissioner DeBras, extend my appreciation to all teachers in our city. The City of Piqua presents its gratitude to these selfless, committed educators who serve the children of Piqua every day. All right. Next on our agenda will be a presentation about the Piqua Pavement Program, Engineering Manager Kenton Kaiser. Yes.
Oh, okay. Mayor, I would like to motion that we amend the agenda by adding a work session on commission rules.
Okay. You can, I'll need a motion, or a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Mayor, I would also move that we add to the agenda on new business a resolution R-78-24, a resolution amending the city manager's contract. We can do that, I guess, we're at your wherever you would like to put it.
We'll make it the
business.
last item of new business.
I'll
Need
need
a second on that?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adding that, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended. I think we discussed that we wanted to try that.
Second. I need a second.
Second.
Second. Motion to approve amended agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Alrighty.
All right, next is a presentation on the Piqua Pavement Program by,
Nope.
oh, we're gonna do Frank first. Okay. Go right ahead.
So there's been a lot of discussion about what's permitted and what's not permitted.
Is your microphone working?
This is better?
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of discussion about what's permitted and what's not permitted to be said at the commission meeting. And it all falls under the First Amendment. And it says, and I put in the title, First Amendment in City Commission Meetings. It is complicated. I got that from an article that I read, and it is. It is very complicated. The first question to everybody that everybody will ask is all speech protected? That answer is absolutely not. And that goes back to Soplansky versus New Hampshire, which is a 1942 case. And it basically stated back then that speech that is lewd and obscene, the profane and libelous and insulting or fighting words are not protected, or ones that are going to utterance of inflict injury or tend to incite an immediate breach of speech. So these type of words are not protected in any case at any time. However, for commission meetings, we have to determine what type of forum are we. Basically, the Supreme Court has come up with 3 to 4 forms, or courts have come up with 3 to 4 forms. The first type of forum that most people have is what they call a public forum. A public forum is your sidewalk, your benches, your public streets and parks. And the restrictions that you can have in these type of forums is very, very strict, meaning that they have to be content neutral, they have to be narrowly tailored to serve a significant government interest and permit alternate channels for expression. This does not mean that there can't be any limitations to this speech, but it's very difficult. The next type of forum is what they call it's a designated, and under designated forms is a limited forum. And under this type of forum, you have basically the same restraints as you do on a public forum, except you can limit the speech to the legitimate purposes for which the forum was created. For example, a city commission meeting would be for most part, is considered a public forum when it has public comments in it. The standard in that is the government may restrict speech in a content-neutral way by restricting time, place, and manner of speech, as long as those restrictions are reasonable and serve the purpose for which the government created the limited public forum. A time, place, and manner restriction is reasonable if it is content-neutral, narrowly tailored to serve an important governmental interest, and leaves open and ample alternatives for communications of information. The next is a non-public forum, and in this type of forum, you can have more restrictions, and a non-public forum would be something that maybe is not open to the public. For example, perhaps if the commission meeting had a meeting where they did not permit public comment, that might be considered a non-public forum. I'm not going to get into much about this because in our case, we probably aren't going to fit into this category. So we asked what forum is the Pickwood City Commission meeting. I would argue that the courts would most likely find that the City Commission meetings currently are a limited public forum, at least the business side. One could possibly argue that it is a public forum for the public comment section. What restrictions can you have at a limited public forum? Here are things that are not protected. Threats, obscenity, profanity. I put a question mark next to that because that's an issue that goes all over the place. All different jurisdictions have opinions on that, but some restrictions on profanity are granted. Defamation, fraud, and incitement. Those are non-protected. No matter what, if you come up and do that up here, you don't have a right to speak. The reasonable time, place, and manner regulations that may serve the forum for its intended purposes, and I base all this on various case law that I dug up. You can have a restriction, a policy prohibiting personnel matters from being individual personnel matters from being discussed. You can prohibit loud and boisterous conduct. You can prohibit race-based and hate-filled epithets. You can restrict profanity that is disruptive. Now there's a fine line. That's why I have a question mark on profanity. At what point is profanity and profanity that's disruptive? It's a call the mayor has to make. There's no easy call on that. Insulting or offensive statements directed at an individual. You can you can require pre-registration to speak at a meeting. You can prohibit disruptive behavior. You can adopt rules prohibiting non-resident speech. You can restrict public comments to agenda items, and you can provide time limits. As I reviewed this, in my opinion, that the City Commission should look at revamping their rules because some of the rules they currently have may not withstand constitutional muster. Some of the recommendations I would recommend would be adopt some, if not all, the allowable restrictions that I just read to you. The other is separate the business meeting from the public forum. The business meeting, you can limit all, I'm very certain you can limit all of that, the comments you can limit to the agenda items in those cases. Nobody has a right then to come up here and ask for to discuss anything but agenda items during your business session. You can hold a public forum separately from it. You can hold it on a different day. You can hold an hour before. You can hold it at a different time. On the other item that I would recommend is that you have restrictions for public comment during public forum and at the meeting. For example, you can have a restriction in the public forum stating that we're only going to take 30 minutes of public comments this meeting, and we are only going to allow 3 minutes per individual. One court case I read allowed 1.5 minutes per individual. But you can adjust those times to whatever you want. You also can adjust those times in the public or in the agenda items too, where you have public comment. I would recommend also having, in the business part of the meeting, having public comments all at the beginning of the meeting, not at every single agenda item. That allows the person to come up, address the items he wishes to discuss. It gives them 3 to 5 minutes, depending on what you set up, to discuss those items, and would prevent repetitive, people coming up repetitively over every single agenda item. The charter in section 4 requires that the citizens of Piqua have the ability to comment on agenda items or legislation. I would also recommend sign-ups. This is common in a lot of jurisdictions in the area. You have to sign up before you come into the meeting. There's a cutoff time in some jurisdictions of 2 o'clock on the day before the meeting. This would be something that you folks would have to decide. But I would make some recommendations. I would recommend that also. Require that all comments, whether in public comments or in the business meeting, be germane to the City of Piqua operation or community importance. I know community importance is broad, and that, particularly in the public comment area, could mean about everything. But at least during the business meeting part of it, that the comments be germane to what's being discussed. And finally, and I had that the public comments during, and that didn't get changed, it should be public comments during the business meetings must be restricted to agenda items. And the word comments is out there. That's it. I need some direction from the commission if they would like to change things or not. If you leave things the way they are, you may. My problem with some of it right now is, particularly with the public comment section, is that our rules, I don't think, are adequate at this point in time.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was going to ask.
This is a work session.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Okay.
I was going to ask if you could put the last slide back up.
Put the last slide back up. On our screens as well.
Yeah,
Oops. He's got to go back in the room to do that.
recommendations. There we go. All right. Okay. I like the first one.
Okay.
The second one I'd actually had mentioned before, because we talked about separating the business meeting from the public forum.
It currently is, it's at the end, so.
Right, but it's still part of the public meeting.
And
Still
Paul's
part-
correct on that. You can have separate meetings for public
Right.
comment.
But I had mentioned, we had talked about having it separate before, and I mentioned that, to me at least, it would make it seem like the people's comments are apart from, not a part of. And we already have some dissension from our citizens as it is, and I want them to feel invited, like, yes, this is our meeting, we run this, but it's also their meeting, this is their city as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's my take. And as far as having the business meeting, public comments, related only to top, agenda items, if someone from, at least from my ward, that comes up and is having a problem that they can't get resolved elsewhere, comes up and they're at public comments and they want to raise that issue here, respectfully, that would be I would think that would be a good forum.
The public comment
Yeah, for
section
public
is,
comments.
but not
Yeah.
necessarily for the business part.
Right,
for
no,
agenda
it says
items.
just as require all comments must be related to matters that, oh, that one is fine.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
I agree with you.
Opening public forum up, you don't have to have public forum. Our city charter does not require it, the state of Ohio does not require it, this commission does not have to have public forum. when you do open it up, you do expose yourself to lawsuits on discretionary matters that the mayor may make or council may make.
Are you suggesting we have a separate meeting just for public comment?
No,
I'm just asking.
no, I wasn't.
Because we do town halls, but they're item specific, but anybody can come.
Right.
Any topic can be discussed, so.
I would be opposed to limiting to 3 minutes. I think
Yeah.
the 5 minutes is a good number. I
What about a time
personally, I'm not sure about that. We did have one last time with a tornado.
And
But
that was a God limit, sorry.
yeah, on the 5 minutes, the 5 minutes is good enough for Congress. It's a pretty common time. I've used that prior to my seat on the commission, and I don't want to limit it down to 3 minutes, and because I benefited from the 5 minutes.
I'm in agreement with that.
As for the 30 minutes,
I think it's be an hour, to be honest with you.
I see the value in a limit, but I don't know that I could support a limit.
Okay. Comment?
If we're interested in adopting any or all of these, what's the next process for that?
Well, we would have to put an ordinance or resolution, probably an ordinance together to do that, and then look at it from there.
Frank?
Well, I got to be completely honest with you. I didn't think, within my first 5 months of being on the commission, that we would be sitting here having to talk about the rules and behavior and conduct at the meetings. I have an issue with changing the rules in the middle of the game, so to speak. I mean, each commission is constituted every 2 years. It's a new commission. There may be different faces up here. There may be the same faces up here. However, after, sitting up here for 5 months, I certainly understand why these recommendations are being put in front of us. So I guess I'm not a hard no on making changes, but there's a couple up here that are quite frankly non-starters with me. Eliminating public comment is a non-starter for me. That needs to continue to be included. I'm with Commissioner Homan. I think 5 minutes is fine. I do like the one during the business meeting portion that any of the comments are germane and relevant to the business item that is in front of us, which I think for the most part that has been pretty well followed. But putting that as the actual part of it, I do have a good idea. I could probably be talked into the requiring a sign up, something to, but again, I also don't want to limit something for someone who, if you close the sign up at 3 o'clock the day before,
And something comes up.
and something comes up, or somebody didn't think they were going to be able to make it, and now they turn out to being able to make it. So I'm kind of torn between that one. On the counterpoint to that, I think we all are fairly accessible. I mean, all of our numbers and email addresses are online, so it's
I have a
not-
Wednesday meeting that you guys come to.
So if anybody truly
Different
needed,
times.
to get a hold of us and has an issue they want to bring up, they're not held to only doing that every 2 weeks at a commission meeting. I think we all do a very good job of making ourselves accessible in between that time. So I mean, looking at all these, there's not one that I'm super strong or passionate about that I'm going to go. I understand the legal situation that we're in. But unfortunately, we can't control the behavior of the people who come and address us at that microphone. But I do believe it'd be a disservice to limit or to cut off public comment for the hundreds of folks who've come up here and have brought issues to our attention and that we've been able to deal with. So
I had no problem with that, and my take on this is that I would like, though, for there to be rules of conduct in which you say we can't control their behavior, but for people to come up and act accordingly and respectfully, we gotta have that. At 5 minutes, I don't have a problem on that. I wouldn't be opposed to a time limit, but I don't wanna cut anybody off like we had to last time. I'm okay, or I'm neutral on the sign up, but then again, if somebody wanted to come at the last minute and speak their mind.
Yeah, I'm personally opposed to the sign up. And I know prior to my seat on the commission, sometimes I'm not sure what people are going to say about a certain ordinance or resolution. Perhaps somebody had a different opinion than me. I might want to go up and try to reconvince the commission. And I'm not going to know that I want to do that until, it's a spontaneous
Understood.
event.
I like the fact that all comments in the business section have to be germane to the item that's being discussed. But we should have some rules, and I know the rules we got in place. I understand your lack of not wanting to change midstream, but we've got to address some issues so that we can get some things. We've got to do the business of the city and not be here.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, and I think that the majority of us sitting in this room would be in agreement that what transpired at the last commission meeting was unacceptable.
Very.
And so while, I'm typically not in favor of making rule changes, if there is something that we can do, that doesn't limit or restrict the ability for folks who
Sure.
are following those rules to
Yes.
continue to be able to
Want people to come up.
to have their input and to bring forth ideas and
Totally agree.
concerns.
Yeah,
I'm
just-
all for it.
Just barring severe weather events,
Yeah.
I am opposed to any structural change to how public comments are given. I would be open to suggestions about codes of conduct.
Yes.
Should they be legally vetted, and that they maintain constitutionality.
Yeah.
But at this point, I understand the need for code of conduct, but structural changes I wouldn't be in support of.
Paul, anything else?
So on the public comments, there's public comments for the business items, and there's public comments for the public forum part
Yeah.
of it. The public comments per the business items, are you indicating you would like public comments on each individual ordinances, or do you have a problem with it all being at the beginning of it, of the business meeting?
I don't have a problem with public, you want public comment at the beginning of,
Then you guys would address, basically, once the public comments are done, you guys would address each ordinance item or resolution item.
I see the packet as kind of our job to read the packet ahead of time and to spend more of our week beyond the twice a month that we meet here looking over it. As a former not commissioner, sometimes I just didn't have time to do that, and I didn't know about certain things until I came here. I would take some time out of my week to come here for 2 hours, but I didn't necessarily take out another hour to read through the packet. And I think that that's fine. I don't think that we need to require, this much civic engagement of coming to the meeting is pretty admirable. I don't know that we need to require an additional, you need to make sure you're reading and then you're signing stuff up and there's a whole paperwork process to it. I think that those are willing to come here in person and take some time out of their week, if they didn't read the thing ahead of time, then that's fine. We should still have a structure for them to give comment in the moment.
after it's been read?
After it's been read.
What's your thoughts on the comments be limited to, the public comments be limited to people that reside in the city of Piqua?
If you had a Fourth
Incorporated?
Amendment compliant method of sussing that out,
No.
I would be in favor of it. I just don't know that there would be a feasible way of accomplishing that.
I mean, even the charter,
The charter says to comment on legislation, it says you have to be a citizen, that you have the right to do it if you're a citizen of Piqua. The court systems have upheld that type of restrictions
All right.
and this type
But
of.
how do you
How do I know?
enforce it? So, for instance, there's a lot of things that maybe I'll have on my person that are illegal, but the mechanism of enforcement isn't that I get stopped and frisked.
I do
and-
real, that, again, and we are allowed to ask people what their name are.
Yes.
You can ask them what street they live on in the city, and that's one method of doing that. Obviously, there may be someone that comes up here and says, I
Yeah, what
live
they lie,
here,
yeah.
and they don't. There's not a lot we can do about that, but
Exactly.
you can, but once you discover that they are not a citizen of Piqua, you can stop them. So, for example, if you have someone that decides to come up from Dayton and just wants to come up to our meetings and raise Cain about things, you can say, you're not a citizen of Piqua, just leave. You don't have the right to comment, and that is acceptable. But that has to be a determination that this commission makes.
I'm back to my original question about, there appears to be some difference of opinion about some of the recommendations, and I'm interested in seeing us have some time at some point to consider them individually and then see what comes out of the, shakes out of the recommendations.
All right, I'll draft something.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
That'll conclude this work session. Next is a presentation on the Piqua Pavement Program. Kenton Kaiser.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Kenton Kaiser. I'm the engineering manager here at the City of Piqua, and today I will be talking to you guys about our payment program. Just to kind of give an overview of what we'll discuss today, initial methods that were used back in 21 and prior before Paul was here, the introduction of payment preservation and how we really tried to expand how we, attacked and looked at work on our streets, and then kind of what we got going on today, all the work we did in 23, all the work we have planned here for 24, and an aspect that I think you guys will really appreciate here, looking at public-facing information here in the future. So in 2021 and prior, really, we only had our annual resurfacing program. That was just our typical project where you would see our ADA curb ramps get done, the street mill and overlaid, and that was to the extent of our program. Public Works would do, pothole patching throughout the winter and throughout the spring, and they would do, minor paving operations, but really that was the extent of the program. There was no additional methods or treatments, and we didn't really look at any. Well, on the left, you'll see, hopefully you could see, our PCI index score that we received in 2021. So with Paul on board, we wanted to really get our streets inventory, and it's really hard to know what every block of every street in the city of Piqua, when we have over 113 centerline miles of streets. It's really hard to know what streets are in what conditions. So we had a consultant, Transmap, in 2021 do an inventory of all of our streets, and our weighted score was 67.25, and that is out of 100. That is actually average to good in Ohio. Transmap does work with cities, municipalities all throughout the United States, and with our inclement weather and things along those lines, 67 is very typical in this area. They work with Kettering and a lot of other local municipalities. And one fact that we kind of learned from that data collection was that in order to maintain our PCI, which is our pavement condition index, the city would need to spend more money, but really pour money into the system to keep it even at 67. Obviously, after 2019, 2020, there was a lot of inflation. Asphalt prices were probably time and a half, 1.75 times what it was in 2019. So really gave us a hard look at how to improve our streets. We don't want to just maintain them, we want to improve them, but also what could we do to take that step in the next direction. So we through, the initiation by Paul, looked at expanding pavement preservation. So pavement preservation is kind of a three-prong attack. We currently use minor rehabilitation, which was our resurfacing. We used that, like I said, 2021 and prior, but we really included those couple additional maintenance methods, preventive maintenance and routine maintenance. And routine maintenance is things like pothole patching, but preventive maintenance is looking at things like sealants and crack sealing and things like that really preserve our pavement versus just letting our initial investment kind of deteriorate. All the methods, treatments there listed with an asterisk next to it are ones we introduced in 2023. As I mentioned, minor rehabilitation, that's just our annual resurfacing program. But as you can tell with the asterisks next to the preventive maintenance items, we added crack sealing, microsurfacing, cape sealing, and rejuvenator, all as tools to our tool belt. And really, we're trying to find ways to make that initial resurfacing investment, stretch and really get our dollar value out of that. And in routine maintenance, Public Works purchased the Durapatcher in 21, 22, and really expanded on, rather than just having hot mix asphalt for patching or cold patching, really making our patchwork more durable and last longer. The graph you see here is the typical life cycle of a street. Your first, after a street is resurfaced, it has a PCI of 100. After 8 to 10 years, you'll start to see some deterioration, but eventually, especially in year 15, in Ohio especially, you'll really start to see that road to fall off and deteriorate. So, with a street life cycle being 15 to 20 years, we have over 2 million square yards of pavement, and with, you can see there with minor rehabilitation, our resurfacing cost is about $14 a square yard. You're looking at $28 million just to repave every street in the city of Piqua, and that was prior to our recent annexations to the south and that expansion, so that's even more asphalt we have to maintain. So thinking about that, how can we really stretch our pavement dollars, and how can we really preserve our nice streets, but also still have money set aside to improve our poorer streets. So on the top there, at $1 a square yard, we can look at things like crack sealing and rejuvenator to help kind of stretch that life cycle out to greater than 20 years. As the red line kind of indicates, really stretching that, where at year 20, we're not looking at a very poor road. We're looking at a road that's still in good condition. The red line would probably go back to up to 100 after microsurfacing or something like that. But really, this is just a visual to show kind of the idea behind pavement preservation, which is to extend the life cycle of a street after resurfacing. I wouldn't even call it a cycle on the left, but the cycle on the left, just shows what we did in the past. We resurfaced the street and we just kind of let it sit there. We didn't do any investment after that resurfacing, so the street was nice for the first 10 to 15 years, but then it would deteriorate and become a poor road, and it would need resurfaced 15 to 20 years later. Whereas the cycle that we're looking for now on the right, once a road is resurfaced, all the roads we resurfaced in 23, we're looking at rejuvenating in 25. 4 to 5 years after that initial resurfacing, we'll look at, does that road need crack sealed? Kind of get every road on this cycle where, of course, they'll be evaluated at that time, but typically this is kind of the cycle that once a road is resurfaced, they'll be, led onto. And then, 8 to 10 years possibly after that resurfacing, giving it a microsurface, something that seals off the road, really extends that life another 8 to 10 years, where after that initial resurfacing, even 20 years down the road, we're looking at a good street in that 80 to 90 PCI. And then even after that, the road would definitely deteriorate slowly over that, but instead of that initial resurfacing only lasting 15, 20 years before it's in a poor condition road, we're looking at 30 to 35. at, you know, only an extra couple dollars a square yard to almost double that pavement life. The map shown here is, and this can be found on our GeoPiqua page as well, but this was all the pavement preservation work that was done in 2023. I apologize, it may be a little hard to see there, but we covered every single street in the Candlewood area, in the southwest portion of the city, along with the neighborhood east of Pittsburgh between South and Manier and McKinley and Gordon. Those were everything from all those preventive maintenance items that we listed, you know, microsurfacing, cape sealing, crack sealing, rejuvenator, or our standard resurfacing, along with crack sealing on 25A and Main Street from Water to the Corp limit. And then we also hit some heavily traveled roads that were deteriorating in Washington Avenue and Wood Street. And I'm sure everybody is excited to see this, but this is our map for our 2024 pavement preservation program, kind of keeping that same transforming a neighborhood. You know, when we go through it, we update 88 curb ramps, we do some street trimming, Public Works does some, you know, sign replacement, kind of really gives a nice look to the neighborhood as we go from neighborhood to neighborhood. But the area this year is High Street from Sunset to College, and all of these side streets there west of Washington Avenue. So all the items you see in red will be our resurfacing, and then there's some additional items or streets there on the bottom left, which is Janet, Jean, and Peters Drive, I believe, which will receive microsurfacing. And the idea behind this year being less pavement preservation is that the streets in red are in that PCI of 30 and 40, so they're in need of a resurfacing versus one of those other treatments, and that's the thing. We want to make sure we are doing the right treatment at the right time. Some other exciting work we got going on this year. We are updating our PCI scores again, so every 3 years we will get that done. We are working with Transmap again. On the left, you'll see a vehicle that you might see driving around the city streets this summer. It's equipped with all the latest technology, but you know, they measure every inch of every crack in the city of all our streets, and they provide those scores for us, you know, that so we can know what we got going on inventory-wise, but also develop a work plan. They will do a score for all city streets, including the recently annexed ones. So we have, you know, that inventory that we don't have right now that we couldn't collect in 21. And we're also doing all of the alleys as well. So that way Public Works can develop a work plan for getting alley work done as well. We are getting a 5-year work plan from Transmap. We are going to work with them, coordinate with utilities, CenterPoint, capital improvement projects, and kind of keep that same neighborhood goal in mind, and develop a 5-year work plan that we internally can use to give to utilities to work on, you know, catch basins or things like that ahead of our paving schedule, but also so we can share with the public, hey, in the next 3 years, these are the general areas we believe we're going to be at. So public information, but also it's great for internal work and communication and coordination between departments. We have a lot of other work, not including the pavement preservation projects. As I believe went to commission a couple months ago, Looney Road resurfacing project with ODOT will be occurring this summer from likely July to early August, so that's exciting. Public Works is doing bike path paving and alley paving. I believe they finished the section of the bike path between Sunset and R.M. Davis. I actually believe they worked on it today. So some of those paving operations that you may not see or you may not drive on, we're trying to give light to all that work that Public Works and all of our departments are doing. And then also, in addition, Homer Drive, which is an industrial road off of Fox Drive, is getting a 300-foot extension with industrial development occurring there. So all exciting things happening in the city of Piqua. Kind of the last item, which I believe everyone here will be excited for. My goal is by the end of 2024 to have a all-stop shop for pavement on our GIS page, and it'd be a page itself where we have all this information available to commissioners, citizens, and, you know, whoever is very interested in all the work we're doing, but also, you know, when is my road gonna be done, things along those lines. So, you know, information you could find, hopefully, for example, like I said, the goal is by the end of this year would be, you know, that 2024 report that we get this year and work plan, all of the work we completed this year, you know, including dollars spent, you know, dates, so you have an idea when that work will take place in your neighborhood, all of those alleys and bike paths that we are paving that you may not know. And then also in addition to that, backlogging and slowly getting all of our pavement work from 2020 to 2023 on that same page. So that way you can see that history and all the additional work that we've done in the past.
All right.
That is the end of my update.
The most popular question was, when's my street gonna be done? And what's
Absolutely.
gonna be done this year, and you've answered that, so. Any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I have one. I noticed that you talked there about paving alleyways. And I was, one of my constituents reached out to me yesterday. He is a disabled veteran, and his van is very low to the ground because of his wheelchair goes in and out of it. And the alleyway behind his home, it has ruts in it. And I told him that if we couldn't, I actually even volunteered myself, said, if I need to, I will get gravel and put it in there. But now I see, ooh, you're paving alleyways. If I give you the location.
Yeah, so I know Public Works is working in the area east of Pittsburgh this year with all alleys being hopefully repaved in that area.
Right.
But in the future, you know, absolutely we'll look at any alley that needs paved, but
Right.
In coordination with that, I believe you're talking about a drive approach and
Right.
kind of brightening that, and that work would definitely be a part of that
Yeah.
project if needed.
Right, because the VA is actually building him a ramp to the back of his house, but he can't get his van back there right now.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We'll,
Priority,
if you
yeah.
give us that information, we'll take it and we'll prioritize that hopefully.
Fantastic.
With some of these new kind of preservation techniques, are these kind of relatively new to the industry, like over the last 20 years? And I guess looking forward as we kind of extend the life on those, is there new techniques that are continuing to be developed that maybe we can get even more if we make it another 10 years?
We wish, right? No, a lot of these have been in the business for a while, but as always, when there's new things out, people are hesitant to use them initially. So Rejuvenator's been around for probably 40, 45 years.
Oh, and we just haven't been using it?
Yeah, we just haven't been using it. So it's more of, at least at this point, a lot of these have been proven to work. So you kind of have that safe, you know, of mind that it's actually going to work versus being one of those front pioneers that maybe was doing the treatment earlier.
I'm now imagining, you know, if we had started using that, you know, 20, 30 years ago, what would the streets look like now? What would the cost to the citizen have been? But, you know, I guess now we can look forward to that in the next 10 to 30 years. Do you have, we've gotten a lot of questions over the last few months about ADA compliance. Do you have any stats on how many ADA ramps for the sidewalks you guys have added? Has it increased? Has it decreased? Are you guys doing more than you used to?
So we select the area for pavement preservation, and then from there we assess all of the curb ramps in that area. Off the top of my mind, we can get you those numbers, you know, how many curb ramps we have in the city, how many are compliant, things along those lines. But each pavement preservation area each year is assessed, and from there we make sure to, you know, bring those 88 curb ramps up to.
There was an ADA study though, done. or
Yeah, so
ADA
we did, we have all that information collected. We are doing, I believe, 42 to 43 this year, 88 curb ramps, for this project.
Do you have any sense of how much time is being spent on like break fix potholes versus just doing preservation and maintenance?
That would be a Public Works question. I don't know if Paul might be
Yeah, I
able to-
can lean into that. So as part of the annual work plan, Brian tracks all of that, and then he goes back at the end of the year and does a summary sheet so we can report out on that. But as he programs the work for maintenance, pavement maintenance, that is an included item.
I would imagine over the next few years, we would see a shift towards maintenance rather than going and chasing potholes.
Correct, that's the hope.
Yeah.
I assume that since some of the roads in Piqua are state highways, that is somehow filtered into the PCI.
So, I mean,
Inversion.
the PCI that isn't, there, it being a arterial road or a collector doesn't affect its score whatsoever. So that PCI is just the overall average. We do have it separated between our major roads and our local roads, but the PCI score isn't influenced by the amount of traffic or anything like that on it.
Okay.
And then I'll point out that I did notice the paving on the bike trail, and you guys did a good job on it.
Yeah, that would be Public Works. Shout out to those guys. They're doing a great job out there.
Any other questions from commission? Nope. Any questions from citizens?
Mayor, can I jump in real quick? I just want to thank Kenton for doing this. Number one, it's good to have a program, but a program's only as good as the people that manage it. And so, you know, under his leadership on the engineering side and working with Public Works, we're really getting a product that it puts us ahead of the rest of the communities around us. And I just want to thank the team for doing that.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. Yes.
Valerie Mulliken. I live on Piqua Clayton Road, and I own a business here in Piqua, or I run a business here in Piqua. My question is, last year we did the streets over in Candlewood, that correct?
Yes.
Why were the manhole covers not raised when the streets were done?
So a lot of those roads were done with microsurfacing or cape sealing, which only added approximately a thickness of a 1/4 inch. So those weren't adjusted just due to that slight
Have you
increase.
driven in there lately? Because I got news for you, they're a lot deeper than a 1/4 inch. And I know because I go there frequently, and my kids own a home in that neighborhood.
Yeah, if you have any specific areas, if you send it in to commissioners or us, we'll take a look at them and see if we can get them adjusted.
Well, I can tell you, Candlewood Drive, Amherst, Dover, New Haven. So
Okay.
they need to be addressed because those manhole covers are very deep. So that was my concern. And then also, I know you mentioned you're doing High Street from Sunset to College. There's a section of High Street that butts up against or becomes part Piqua Clayton, just west of town, or I don't want to say west of town, but west of the old Buckeye Mart PR Specialties, in that area going out to the country. And you made mention about the pavement falling off. The pavement's falling off in the ditches out there, right at the edge of the city limits. It's the city of Piqua, east of Spiker Road, excuse me, east of Spiker Road and west of
Probably
Piqua
R.M.
Manor.
Davis, maybe.
I'm
or
sorry?
R.M. Davis. Or
It's
Westfield.
west of that. It's west of Piqua Manor, east of Spiker Road. That section, excuse me, of Country Road right there, particularly on the south side of the road, but the pavement is actually crumbling into the ditch, and it's only going to get worse. So something needs to be done because it's rolling into the ditch, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
on both sides.
Yeah, we can.
And it's not adequately it's not adequately snow plowed in the wintertime. So if you have a little car, you will end up in the ditch if those are not fixed. We know because we've had several cars in the ditch this last winter on little bits of snow at that. And I don't advocate for for snow plowing for every snow. So. But I do know that if the road, excuse me, I'm sorry, if the road were smoother and not falling into the ditch, it would be a little safer.
Yeah, we can. I'll reach out to Brian in Public Works and we'll take a look at it. I know there on Washington Avenue we kind of had a maybe similar situation. I haven't seen the area that you're referring to, but where a safety edge was kind of need to be added, which is that gravel strip just on the edge of the pavement, so that may be a solution to help prevent it from falling over, but we'll definitely take a look at it. And
I'm not sure you're gonna be able to put a safety edge there because literally it's a very deep ditch and it's a drop on both sides. It's just the way the road was made before it was annexed into the city. And then the other street I have is Vine Street. I know that that's not west of Washington Avenue. It's actually between Nicklin and Madison Avenue. You need to mow the grass on that street. It's really bad. We need to get out there and get something done with the resurfacing of that street as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Oberdorfer, I know Kevin Craney was working on something with replacing manhole covers, and I know that those are very expensive, but there was some cycle. Do we know if the ones that were brought up, are those on the list to be replaced at some point, or?
I can find out, and certainly we need to do an inventory and measure what that is because it's different for different roadway types and speeds. And so if you're in a residential area, you're going to have a little bit less impact in terms of drivability or rideability with that. But we can certainly inventory it, and there's a system where they can come out, it's called Mr. Manhole, where they actually have a donut cutter and they cut around the manhole, remove the pavement, reset the lid, and then put asphalt or concrete around it, either one. So that's something that we can bake into the process for these problematic areas.
Gotcha. All right. Next.
Jeff Grimes. Everybody wants our roads to be paved, and I appreciate you doing that. But one concern that I'm hearing from a bunch of people is when they do go around, and I think it's the new patcher that they have, it spreads a lot of gravel, and it's very dangerous for motorcycles and bicyclists. So maybe a suggestion would be, if you're going to be doing that, at least put some signage out that says, you know, loose gravel, where they're doing this.
Don't you send the sweeper out after they do that?
Right, they have to wait a few days until traffic compacts, and then they go by with the sweeper and sweep it up.
Once again, I appreciate the roads being paved, but the couple days before that sweeper is brought out there, signage would be much appreciated because it is very, very dangerous for motorcycles. But thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other public comment? That'll conclude the presentation. Thank you, Kenton. Good job. Keep working on it.
thank you, appreciate it.
And please check those manhole covers as noted. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda.
Approval of the minutes from the May 7th, 2024 regular city commission meeting. Resolution number R-70-24, a resolution of appreciation for the public service of Jason M. Preston as a city employee. Resolution number R-71-24, a resolution of appreciation for the public service of Larry Wiles as a city employee. Resolution number R-72-24, a resolution of appreciation for the public service of Tammy Wright as a city employee.
It looks like only Jason's here, but Jason, will you come forward? Mm-hmm. Get out of that uniform, and you look all relaxed. I love it. Know the feeling. Jason was my last lieutenant that I worked for. I was very honored to work with him. He did a great job. But we have a proclamation for you, a resolution of appreciation, actually, for the public service of Jason M. Preston. Whereas Jason M. Preston has retired as a deputy chief with the city of Piqua, whereas his retirement follows over 20 years of faithful and dedicated service to the city and its citizens. Long time. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Commission of the City of Piqua, Miami County, all members elected thereto concurring that in recognition of the appreciation of the public service of Jason M. Preston with the city of Piqua, this commission tenders its unanimous and respectful tribute by this resolution, which shall be a matter of public and permanent record. This resolution shall take effect and be enforced from and after earliest period allowed by law. Jason, congratulations. Thank you for all you've done. I'd like to also thank Larry Wiles and Tammy Wright for their years of service to the city. It is much appreciated.
Mayor, do you need a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes.
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of the consent agenda, adopting the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We'll move on to old business. Ordinance number O-3-24, third reading.
An ordinance to adopt Chapter 99 Piqua Historic Preservation Ordinance.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. It is Kyle Hinkleman, the Community Services Director. Good evening. I am here with O-3-24. It is a third reading. There are some very small changes from the second reading that were required by the State Historic Preservation Office, dealing with moving where the public hearing section of the code was. But otherwise, there are no changes. It continues to be the same document as it was in the second reading. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But otherwise, Ordinance 324 is for your consideration.
Any comments from the commissioners?
I want to comment as a compliment to Kyle. Kyle made the presentation about this ordinance to the Hance Pavilion Committee last week, and it was, I think, essentially the same presentation that you made here, but it was very well done, and I think well received, very thorough. People had a chance to ask questions. Some of the people in attendance at that meeting probably had not heard the presentation in the City Commission, so I really appreciated what you did with that, and I think it's a good idea, and I'm in favor of it.
Any other comments?
I'll just say I continue to appreciate the process with this. I think the first reading there was a lot of confusion and concern, and I think you did a good job of working with everybody to try to resolve all that. I guess my only question would be, is that continued? Has that stayed resolved? Has there been any more discussion with the public or the people affected by this that we need to be concerned about or should know about?
The only modification came from our last discussions, which will come at ordinance, not to take it away from Ordinance 424, that's the next one, but the only really change that has come since then was the adding of a Piqua Caldwell Historic District board member to that board makeup. But since those discussions, there has been no further modifications based on any comments, although, as Commissioner Vetter noted, I have met with a number of groups within the city for their interest in this potential legislation, but there are no modifications that have come out of that.
Gotcha. These are this one and the next two after, they're kind of all like really tightly associated with each other, more or less, right?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, I wonder if maybe we do readings and public comments and then vote on all three after.
I don't think we can do that.
Oh, we
You have
can't.
to address them one at a time.
One at a time.
All right.
Nice try.
I tried.
I wanna,
Now, if you amend the rules for public comments to begin all at the beginning of the meeting, you would.
Oh, okay.
at the beginning. Nice try.
Back to that full circle.
Any comments from citizens about this ordinance?
I would move the adoption of ordinance after the third reading of O-3-24.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? It's an ordinance, so I need a roll call, right? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner DeBras,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Aye.
Mayor Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Homan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter.
Aye.
Next on our agenda is ordinance number O-4-24.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 32, Boards and Commissions.
Good evening again. Ordinance 424 is the modification to Chapter 32. As I noted, the only change from the second reading is the addition of a Piqua Caldwell Historic District Board member to the composition of the creation of the City Historic Review Commission. It is otherwise substantially the same as the second and first reading. Ordinance 424 is for your consideration. If there's any questions.
Did we stated that we would put a member of the commission on that board as well?
Correct. So after the first reading, we modified and we added that the board is made up of 6 members, one of which is an ex officio member from the commission. And then after the second reading, we modified, and so now one of those additional 5 members that are voting is actually will serve or will be placed as a member because they serve as the board member of the Piqua Caldwell Historic District.
I'll nominate Paul Simmons if he's interested.
To quote Eddie Murphy, pick me, pick
Pick
me.
you. I did. I'll nominate you for that.
All right.
I will note that this board will need to be filled, obviously, once it is created, and it will go through the same process as we would for any other board at the city. But this board, as you are all aware, but I would like to note again, does have specific requirements that the members, to the extent possible, have experience or education in the fields of architecture, architectural history, archaeology, planning, or related disciplines. And the State Historic Preservation Office prefers archaeology. So I don't know how many archaeologists we have in the city of Piqua, but if you know them all, have them all apply, please, so they can help us with this board. But again, we noted that it's to the extent possible, and the State Historic Preservation Office is aware. As a community of our size, we are not blessed with as many of these types of professionals. So a deep interest or a deep, idea of Piqua's history, I think probably would mean you would be a valuable asset to that board. But it is a little different than other boards. There needs to be some skills or knowledge based in those kind of topics to be on that.
We'll solicit that starting tomorrow, assuming this passes.
That is correct, yes.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor, if by chance Mr. Simmons is not able to do that, I
Be
would
interested.
be interested in also serving.
Yes, you told me. And
Kyle, on the board here, it says that one of the 5 full members is to be a board member from the Caldwell Historic District. And then it says the city commission shall appoint. So I'm assuming that the way this is going to happen is the Caldwell Historic District is going to make their recommendation, and then it's up to the commission to approve or say, no, send us someone else.
Correct.
Am I understanding this correctly?
The appointments of the board are still the city commission's appointments. So the point is that one of those should be a board member on the Piqua Caldwell Historic District. Does not obligate that person to be selected.
Don,
the
you
city
wanna-
commission still has final appointment.
Don, you want to come talk about that or not? You know you wanted to come up here.
Not really, but
I know.
I'm here. Well, first off, I really appreciate working with Kyle to do the historic district information, and I know that we're developing a second historic district for the purpose of this, and hopefully the Piqua Caldwell District will begin to work to combine both so that it's one really nice historic district in the city of Piqua. And we do have a large board, there's 12 members, and we will have a meeting and make a selection of the person we recommend to be on this board. And I'm happy to be represented on the board because we do have several larger buildings in our community, in our district, that do need some assistance, and hopefully this will help us to get that accomplished as well, to improve the district. So I really appreciate what you're trying to do, and we'll do our part.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Any other citizen comments on this topic? I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance O-4-24.
I'll second that. Moved and seconded. We need a roll call.
Commissioner Vetter,
Aye.
Mayor Lee,
Aye?
Commissioner DeBras,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Aye.
Commissioner Homan.
Aye.
All right. Moving on to ordinance number O-5-24, a third reading.
An ordinance to amend Title 15 Land Usage Piqua Development Code.
Good evening for a third time. Ordinance 05-24 is the changes to the development code to accomplish the previous two ordinances. There are no changes from the first reading. This will serve as ordinance 524, changes to the development code. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions from commission? Any questions from citizens? This will serve as a second reading then.
Oh, third reading.
Third, is it third?
It is a third reading.
Third, I'm sorry.
I would move the.
Wait a minute. Frank's not here.
I'm sorry.
Mayor, I'd move that we take a 2-minute hiatus.
Yeah, until he gets back.
Do you want to talk, Kyle, any more about the process with this one? Just any controversies or concerns that the public had with it that you were able to resolve, or was this one a little bit more straightforward than the others?
Do you want me to find some? No.
No.
This was a very simple, again, these modifications accommodated our ability. The language that was within the development code was now moved into the separate ordinance. So to clean up the development code, we have to remove all that language that is now in the separate Chapter 99 ordinance. So, no. Again, the language existed, it's moving, it no longer exists in the development code.
All right. Now we can rush
Mayor, I would
Commissioner DeBras.
Mayor, I would move that we ask Mr. DeBras to quit now.
No, no.
Mayor, I would move that we adopt ordinance O-5-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Can the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner DeBras,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Aye.
Mayor Lee,
Aye?
Commissioner Homan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter.
Aye.
All right. Moving on to ordinance number O-6-24.
An ordinance to regulate burning activities.
Do you want to talk?
I believe Mr. DeBras has a motion.
I was going to make it, but go right ahead.
I would like to offer an amendment to this ordinance.
Oh, go right ahead.
So based off of the conversation, the back and forth that we had at the last commission meeting, and specifically an amendment that was offered by Commissioner Simmons regarding section 8. I would like to add the following to that, which starts, and violators shall be responsible for the cost of all contamination testing and the cost of all remediation of any environmental injury or damage as a result of the violation. So essentially, that would put on top of the fine that the entity who was, or the party that was in offense of the resolution would also be liable to pay for
remediation.
any testing that, if we would have to do testing, whether it be air, soil, water, and if it came to any remediation, any cleanup, that would be their cost, not the city's cost.
Yeah, so that amendment would make section 8 read, any violation of this ordinance shall result in a civil penalty of $1,500 for the first violation, $3,000 for the second violation, $5,000 for the third violation, and violators shall be responsible for the costs of all contamination testing and the cost of all remediation of any environmental injury or damage as a result of the violation.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Frank, it's okay? Okay?
All right.
Paul, you like that?
if you wanna make it 15,000, we can do that. No.
Well, we can't
I
go.
love
That would
this.
be.
That's
The
like,
problem with increasing the
Policy.
penalties is the penalties have to be reasonable at some
I
point.
know.
Yeah, it was a joke.
I
I know
was
what
giving
you're
him a hard
saying.
time 'cause he said
No,
15,000.
I mean, that
But no,
cleans
that's
it all up.
excellent.
Yep.
That's
So-
excellent idea.
So we have a motion, is there a,
Well, we'll pass the motion to amend this, and then I want to open it up for
Yeah.
public comment. Entertain a motion.
I would move that we amend, or adopt that amendment.
Second.
From,
Second.
yeah.
Moved and seconded on the motion to amend. All those in favor? Or do we need to do a roll?
Let's do a roll call.
Yeah. Roll call.
Commissioner Vetter,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Aye.
Commissioner Homan,
Aye.
Mayor Lee,
Aye?
Commissioner DeBras.
Aye.
All right, and so it has been amended.
Alrighty.
Any comments from citizens?
Hello, Kim Heisler, 1802 West Parkway Drive. That was very good to add that, but still, and I understand there's maybe problems with upping that price, but we're still playing after the problem happens. We want to deter it before it happens. I don't know, that's me speaking, but I would rather prevent something than play catch-up. So I would recommend upping that quantity or that dollar amount.
I don't think
Maybe
we
it's just
can
me.
legally, but thanks.
Okay, all
I
right.
appreciate that.
Melanie Walker, 526 North Wayne Street. Last meeting, when you read it, there was one of the things about that there had to be certified firefighters there when there was any burns. My question is do we have enough certified firefighters in the community?
The language was any Ohio certified firefighter. So every state has their own certification process. And so Ohio has a particular one that's outlined by the laws that were referenced in there. So because the training could potentially be our fire department or visiting fire departments, it merely stated that somebody from Ohio had to be there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be our firefighters there, but it has to be an Ohio licensed firefighter. And since it's an Ohio, Bowling Green State University Fire School is an Ohio certified firefighting school, presumably it's not overly burdensome for them to provide a firefighter that's Ohio certified.
Okay.
That's the thinking there.
I
Does
just
that
wanted
answer
to
your?
make sure we had enough people that,
That's a
you
good
know.
question, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Melanie.
Hi, Nancy Ruff, 208 North Downing. Is it possible that the city itself could be a violator?
Given some of the changes to city policy with this ordinance, with the rest of this ordinance, I think we'd find it really hard to be subletting city property to private entities for the purpose of burning, just based off the rest of this. So, yeah, it would certainly be possible that the city would be a violator. I think that based off some of the other previous sections, it makes it really unappetizing for a private entity to come here and attempt to do that again, just because of all the other parts of the ordinance, especially the data capture part where the data can't be for proprietary use. So yeah, that's certainly possible.
And then this would be effective from here forward, not retroactive?
Yeah, so the section 10, the ordinance be enforced from the earliest period allowable by law, and that's kind of boilerplate. I don't think that we are allowed to make any kind of retroactive law if we wanted to. So that's the best we can do.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Jeff Grimes, 9300 State Route 66. So would this resolution just be for 9300 State Route 66, or is it going to be the entire city?
Section, let's go with section 2. City of Piqua shall not allow the use of city-owned property. So it's all city-owned property regardless of where it's at.
Okay, so how about if a company would come in that the city does not lease stuff to and do this?
On privately owned property?
Yes.
Yeah, this specifically does not cover privately owned property.
City-owned property.
I would think that we need to do something with a privately owned property also. And
Yeah,
my
I
problem.
I believe Commissioner Simmons was interested in writing such an ordinance to follow up with this one.
Yeah.
And my problem with all this with the certified firefighters is, if you remember correctly, they were the ones that were responsible for watching this to begin with. So you're going to have somebody that I'm going to say it, that I don't trust them watching over what's going on, because if we would have had certified firefighters, we did have certified firefighters. We got a fire school that allowed this stuff to happen. So I'm still not satisfied that who's going to be watching over this. Very concerning.
Can I ask, if you don't trust Ohio certified firefighters, what would be the burden? Who would you trust to watch over that?
With all that's happened, probably me. It's, you guys, we got Bowling Green State University involved in this. We've got the Ohio Fire Marshals. We've got all kinds of certified people that allowed this to happen. So now we're going to trust these people to police themselves again out there? Once again, I would say that it would be a lot easier if we put down no more burning anything out there ever again. It's a nuisance. Have you guys ever gone out there in the morning and seen the tranquility and the beauty? And then we're going to be burning stuff, and we got to put a sign up that says fire training in progress. That is a nuisance for the fishermen, the bike riders, the dog park, anybody enjoying that area. And if it's safe, like I said, there's a blank piece of property right over here that you guys could police it. It's right next to the fire department. So move it in town if it's safe. It wouldn't be near our waterways or our parks. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure that it was a question, but I just wanted to state that I unequivocally trust Ohio certified firefighters, especially Piqua Fire Department firefighters.
And I would add that I have made that trip multiple times out to the Serene area. I make it every morning during the spring and the fall and the summer, and I'm quite aware of that. My father believed that Swift Run was the only place in the world that had fish, and so I fished Swift Run on multiple occasions with him, and so I appreciate the serene nature of the area.
Any other questions from citizens? It is a second reading. Do we need a third?
Mr. Mayor, I'd be willing to make a motion to waive the third reading and to vote on final passage this evening.
I'll second that. A motion to suspend the three reading rule. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner DeBras?
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter?
Aye.
Mayor Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons?
Nay.
Commissioner Holman?
Aye.
All right. So now that we're at the three reading point, I need a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded. I need the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
Commissioner Holman?
Aye.
Mayor Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner DeBras?
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter?
Aye.
All right. Moving on. Next is ordinance number O-7-24.
An ordinance repealing and replacing Piqua Municipal Code, Section 30.01.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is the second reading for this ordinance, and this would amend City Code Section 30.01 to provide the city manager with the authority to approve claims against the city up to the legal amount for not bidding contracts without prior commission approval. And there have not been any changes since the last reading.
Any questions from commission? Any questions from citizens?
Hello, Kim Heisler, 1802 West Parkway Drive. Am I correct to say that it's going from 2,500 to 75,000?
That is correct. That had been that amount for some time. I'm not sure just how long, but this just brings it into line with what the city manager would have the authority to approve on a contract without bidding.
Okay. I understand that. And let me ask all of you guys up there, would you allow anybody to have a blank check to write any amount of money without you knowing? Can I see of hands who would do that?
That's essentially the form of government that we have is.
Right, that's how corruption happens. You lengthen it to make things pass quicker, faster, more corruption happens. Shouldn't there be some kind of oversight?
There is for the excess of that number.
The excess of 75,000
Yeah.
that went up from only 2,500.
Is that accurate? It was 25?
Would you guys?
It was more than, I don't.
That is correct.
You gotta talk up
Okay.
here, okay?
Would
Don't-
you guys
don't
allow
talk
that,
to-
though, in your checkbook, to write a blank check and not know what was being spent on?
I don't consider it a blank check, number one, and number two, there's no prohibition from the city manager bringing those issues to the commission as a courtesy or whatever, so.
He
so
should
I'm-
still bring
I'm not-
those things to us.
That's right. I'm
They-
not worried
It's still
about that.
required to show you guys?
Yeah. That's what he's saying, yes.
Are we a part of that also, or just you
If you wanna
guys?
know, yes.
Well, it would be nice to be,
Sure.
part of the city and know where our money's going. I mean,
Sure,
it's
it
our
could be,
money.
when it's brought to us in this forum, we'll put it out in the agenda packet, and you could see it when we see it.
I'm only saying, working at corporate business and stuff like that, I mean, just a few $100s, we have to get approval through 2 managers, so I'm just saying it would be nice instead of,
I guess to use your example of a corporate entity, we're kind of the shareholders board of like the representatives of the shareholders, which is the citizens, and Paul's the CEO. And so even in corporate America, there's usually the CEO has some latitude beyond the shareholder representatives micromanaging his decisions. I understand what you're saying, that you think of that. Maybe we need to micromanage at least down a little bit more, but it's essentially that's what it's based off of.
It seems like 2,500 to 75,000 is huge.
I don't, yeah, I thought that
that's
it
where
wasn't
corruption
2,500. I thought it was.
It was 2,500, but it goes back, I believe, to the 80s or 90s. It's a very old number.
I understand that too.
So it's
Just
just
seems like there
parallel.
should be more oversight.
It's paralleling the Ohio Revised Code with the limits that are established for contracts. So as that number gets updated, it basically just updates that contract value.
Is that where that came from? Is 75,000 is
Correct.
like that's the
current
standard across?
Current ORC. And what I can do is we can put together a policy with the finance department. Then when we have any settlements, regardless of the dollar amount, they can be, either given to the commission or put in the commission packet. Or I can
So the
report out
public's
during my
aware.
city manager's report and say we had settlements in this amount for whatever the reason was.
That's fine.
It would be nice to know what it's being spent for.
Sure.
But nice to also have pre-approval. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, John Wessel, 1820 Eagles Lake Drive. So there was the parallels to working in a private business. If I have a direct report who has a $5,000 approval limit for a purchase order, right, for purchase requisition, and he comes to me and says, John, I want an increase in my limit from $5,000 to $10,000. I'm probably going to think to myself, well, how many times in the last year right? Has this occurred where there's been an expense between 5 and 10 that's had to come to me, right? Is this a one-time thing? Is this a never thing? You know, why do that? And so I read the agenda packet, right, for every meeting. I don't know that there's a lot of these. And I agree we don't need an act of Congress because we accidentally swiped a mailbox or something, right? And there's a claim against the city. And I'm under the impression that's an example of a claim that we're talking about here. Is that right?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with vehicle damage, and the law director could speak to that. But, you know, as you look at the cost of doing business now, with it a $2,500 limit, it would be almost every occasion.
Yeah, you take out a mirror and you're done. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And so one question I have is, would this limit also apply to settlements related to like employee severance, some type of claim that is more of on the personnel matter?
Does it?
I would have to ask the law director to opine on that, but that generally settlements are of a different nature. This would be something that's related to damage and not necessarily a settlement with a suit, if I'm correct with that.
Personnel matters are going to go before the commission to discuss in a settlement of that nature.
So you'll know about
But he
that.
can settle it without, if it's below that amount, yes,
Right.
he would be able to sign it. But it's always been the practice when something like that occurs that
It
the
goes.
commission is notified. And it's notified in the executive session. We don't have to bring it out in front of here for various reasons.
Awesome, that's all I had.
I think citizens need to know, though.
Maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe I misunderstood. So we're going from 2,500 to 75,000 or 7,500?
75,000, that is correct. That is the legal limit at this time for contracts not to be bidded.
I seem to remember hearing it as 7,500, so, okay.
Damage to a car is pretty easy to get to at $7,500. I mean, there's other issues that occur throughout the city with water systems, sewer backups, things of that nature that can be upwards to that amount, to even more. But vehicle damage is probably the biggest one that we see.
I do understand that the jump is substantial, but it sounds like the jump's substantial because we've not been paying attention to this for like a lifetime, and now we've got to catch back up. And so sometimes those catch-ups are big jumps.
Any other questions from the citizens? That'll serve as a second reading then. We're going to move on to new business, ordinance number O-8-24. First reading.
An amended ordinance to make appropriations for the city of Piqua, Ohio for the year 2024.
Commissioners, this ordinance would amend the appropriations in 2 line items. And the first one is under the first section 001, the line item for general government. And we're asking for an increase here of $10,000 in the appropriations. And this has 2 parts. 7,500 of this is an increase to for funding for the TNR program, and then 2,500 for the farm sanctuary program. And there was a change in the funding for the TNR program that goes through the Humane Society. So we didn't know at the time we set the budget for this, but this would increase the appropriations to keep that program, help keep it funded to help address the stray cat problem. And then the second line item is, there's section 7. Here, we're asking for an increase to the fire department's budget. The total increase would be $285,000. But there's also money, $35,000 being moved from the police department over to the fire department for a total of $320,000 to allow the fire department to purchase a used ladder truck that they're looking at buying.
Chief, can the fire chief speak about the used fire truck?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
So this ladder truck is a 2001. I don't know if you're familiar with all the descriptions. We refer to it as a rear mount aerial, similar to the truck that we had for the 1986 Grumman that was in the station. It does not have the platform that truck had, and it is 23 years old. So we know that it has a limited lifespan that it has left with it. Was for sale from Clear Creek Township or Clear Creek Fire District in Clear Creek Township in Warren County. They were asking $300,000. The agreement that's been come to with them was $250,000 for purchase. We had an additional $70,000 there for the repairs and upfitting to get that fully in service for the city.
Fits in our fire station?
It does fit in our fire station. We physically brought it to the station. Our building being built in 1927, by 1986, we had already exceeded the original capacity of that building, and the modifications were done in 1986 for that truck to fit. And we did physically bring it here and back it in the station to ensure that it did fit in the building, yes.
And that would give us a ladder truck with a life expectancy of what? Maybe 10 years?
We were expecting certainly less than 10 years.
Yep.
More like 5 or 6 years would be the expectation there. And that sounds, for that amount of money, even talking around the kitchen table at the firehouse, it sounds pretty awful. If we take the new purchase cost of an apparatus, currently at about $1.8 million, and we amortize that over 30 years, we're at about $60,000 a year.
Yep.
So if we take even the $300,000, where we look at a $250,000 purchase and then repairs a portion of that $70,000, at $300,000 for 5 years, we're still at $60,000 a year for the cost of ownership of that. So the big deal for this is looking at a used truck is that it gives us something almost immediately. That truck is sitting in Clear Creek Township. It does need to go for some repairs. It has some hydraulic leaks, some engine problems that our mechanics from Atlantic. Atlantic is the company that does our repairs for our fire apparatus now. They've already done their evaluation. Their facilities in Springboro, very near to where this truck is, and they're already familiar with that apparatus. So within about 6 to 8 weeks, we should have that in service for the city, versus when we order a new apparatus, we expect that to be 3 to 5 years for that process to get that to take place. So this is supposed to be a stopgap measure. This gets us to a minimum level of protection where we actually have a ladder truck ready to respond for the city. We don't have to rely on Sydney or Troy to provide that for us like we have since 2019. And it does get us back into where we have some level of protection for that right away.
I know you and Chief Byron have been doing a really great job, and Paul, your team as well, trying to figure out how we can get this done. I see that you guys are asking for emergency approval just because of the way the timeline works out. You said 6 to 8 weeks, so is that 6 to 8 weeks from tonight if that approval is granted? That we can see that
as soon as we can get that into the shop, that Atlantic Emergency Services, we're kind of at their mercy. They're aware that we want to get that in, and we've told them as soon as this commission agrees to that and we have that reading in place, we will make that schedule. And they said their time once it's in the shop should be 6 to 8 weeks.
What kind of training does your department need to operate that? Is there anything? Are you guys able to start jumping on that day one, or is there going to be a learning curve before it can actually start fighting fires?
There's definitely going to be a learning curve with that. I've requested some funds in here for training, and where that comes out as is we have to see where those repairs actually come out to. If our repairs come in under budget, we will have some additional funds to pay for training for that. If our repairs come in over budget, we may be waiting until calendar year 25 to be able to have the money to budget for training that. That doesn't mean that we can't use it, right? We just have to do our own internal training. We take our folks out and operate it, but we need to go into this with our eyes wide open. We've not had a ladder truck in the city since 2019, and 14 of our 28 firefighters, as of this summer, will have been here for less than a year. So certainly the majority of our members, the majority of our folks who be operating this apparatus have never operated a similar apparatus before. Some of them have come from other organizations, and we know that these are the biggest, the heaviest, the longest, right? Some of the most critical apparatus to operate. So we do need to be sure that comes along with plenty of training. And even if we're able to pay for some of the specialty training, one of the things that I've looked at is there is a group of firefighters at the Columbus Fire Department who specialize in aerial ladder operations. And I would like to bring them in to teach some of our folks about how they operate ladders. I may not want to ask them about how to do rural firefighting operations with tankers, but these gentlemen do an excellent job in operating all kind of ladder apparatus. But even if I'm not able to bring them in, this year, our folks can go out and practice setting that truck up and practice driving it and get comfortable with operating it. We will definitely be more effective if we're able to do some training along with that. So I appreciate you asking that question. It's certainly something I've thought about.
And I would encourage you to come back to this commission if you find you do need training. I think that there's a lot of public enthusiasm and excitement for getting a ladder truck. That's been a desire for a very long time.
Yes, it is.
And I would really hate to spend all this money and have an asset just sitting there that we just need a little bit more just to be able to use it. So if you need more training and you can figure out how a justification for that, please come back to us and let us know how we can make sure that we're utilizing that asset. We didn't just get something and then walk away from it, but we're actually able to use it for what we need it for.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Chief, I understand that this is kind of a stopgap measure for us, and that for the first time in Pickwa's history, we are starting to put some money back for the purchase of a new truck that will eventually be the solution. And I think what that has is impact for the capital improvements budget, which we'll be reviewing this summer, and it certainly will have an impact on that for sure.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, the idea that we renewed 2 township contracts and we're on, I would say, forecasted to, in the future, have the funding available in cash, and if we do have a very small borrowing need, it won't be the $1.8 million of debt service. So through some discipline and working with Chief Byron and Chief Adams, I think that we can get there over time and get the new ladder truck ordered and have a payment plan in place to pay for a substantial portion.
Sounds good.
And it fits in the garage?
It does.
I already said that.
It does fit in the garage. And
I wanted to hear from the man himself.
He said it. He's the one that said it.
It was physically in the building. It was as light a weight as it could be. We had the water off of it.
Yep.
And it will get new low-profile tires before it comes here.
There you
so
go.
It will be even a little lower when it comes back again.
Any questions from citizens?
Nancy Roof. We still have the contract with Bowling Green for firefighter training. Does this not fall into that kind of training?
Answer that, yes.
It does.
So our contract with Bowling Green, that provides them the ability to be able to use that training center to be able to do certification classes. So we can certainly host folks here to do training there, but there still may be a cost to pay for those instructors to come here. If they want to host a class to do aerial ladder operations here in our city, we may be able to get a little better deal on the cost of that. So it may be beneficial to us, that agreement with Bowling Green State University, but it does not give us free reign to any kind of classes or instructors that they have for our folks. It allows them to use that facility, and we benefit from that, having them do that training here. I'm not aware currently of any classes that they offer that would provide that benefit. What we're looking at is a program with them to do certification classes, Firefighter 1 certification classes. We're looking to hire 3 new members immediately. We're working on that project right now, and some of those really good candidates do not have that firefighter certification. And that agreement with Bowling Green, I'm not sure it's going to help us this time, but in the future, having the ability to do certification classes is definitely going to be a big benefit to us. And having that building, additionally, will give us a place that we can practice using that ladder truck to put the aerial device, the ladder, actually up to a building. And if we scratch the building that we go up against or bang into it when somebody's trying for the first time, we're not damaging someone's building downtown. So having the building and the agreement with Bowling Green that allowed us to get that through a grant-funded process is definitely beneficial to the city. But it does not just give us free carte blanche to whatever training that might be available.
Might be worth a discussion with them.
Yes, ma'am.
Valerie Mulliken, Pickwa Clayton Road. Is there any reason that you guys have to do a second or third reading tonight? Because I'm going to tell you,
No.
you all approved this man to be your fire chief, and you could not have picked a better fire chief.
We know.
And thank you, Lee Adams, for taking the time, along with Chief Byron, to figure this out, to get something here. We have a brand new YMCA getting ready to open, and all I can think is, oh my gosh, what if something happens? And please, God, don't let it happen. But that building is a monster in comparison to the old one, and I'm so grateful. This is the best news I could have heard in the last year coming out of this commission chamber. Thank you. Please waive those readings and get that fire truck here.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Hello, Josh Blackshire,
Hey,
Fox
Josh.
Drive. Have you guys looked at YouTube? You can learn anything at YouTube, so.
Oh, Josh, come on, man.
I'm sorry.
Come
I
on,
had
man.
to come up with a little
Ain't
bit
gonna learn
here.
how to do that on YouTube.
Anyway, I just wanted to echo what Val said. I agree. I hope y'all pass it. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Everybody's been real excited for it, so
We
I
are
think this is a
excited.
great idea.
Good, thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask the unpopular question.
You ask it.
Please don't throw anything.
No.
Can't believe I'm going to say this.
You got to.
Does the city need a ladder truck? And when I ask that, what I'm saying is, I'm sure there's some rules, right? We don't need two, right?
I believe, so the reason why I'm gonna
Yeah.
I go for the waiving the 3 reading rule and why I would vote to approve this is, from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the ladder truck helps with rescuing on 2nd and 3rd and higher story floors that we just simply aren't able to accomplish right now.
And
Right,
we've
so
asked
I guess
for,
what I'm asking
we've
is,
asked for
I'm sure
aid.
there's some firefighting association, right, that says, hey, if you have so many buildings of this size and so many people and they're this far apart, you should have this many ladder trucks and they should go this, right? So what does that tell us about, the other localities that do have a ladder truck? Is that sufficient? Is it not sufficient? Does that make sense?
So probably looking at any kind of regulations or standards, probably the one that is the most, going to have the most effect on the city of Piqua and financially, not as an ordinance or as a law or regulation, would be the Insurance Service Office rating of the city. If you've ever heard the term ISO rating, currently we have an ISO rating of 4, with a smaller number being a better rating. 1 being nearly perfect, 10 being essentially no fire department at all. We're currently at an ISO rating of 4. That ISO rating was done in 2017. And in addition to the fire department, it also looks at our dispatching services. It looks like at our water supply. But a big portion of that is the fire department, the equipment that we have, the people we have, the training that they have. And that ISO rating that we currently have was done in 2017 when we had the ladder truck previously. And so if we were to be reevaluated currently without having that ladder truck, it very likely would change our ISO rating. And what that means is property insurance rates in the city would be reflective of that change. So that dollar amount to the folks who, for anybody who owns especially businesses and large businesses, the dollar figure change to them in the course of a year for their insurance would very likely to be offset the cost to the city of purchasing that ladder. That $60,000 per year, we talked about as cost of ownership, that's where that really falls in it. But yes, there are other standards. The National Fire Protection Association has standards about what sort of apparatus would be appropriate. I can also speak to, since 1927, there's been a ladder truck in the current building that's there. We have photographs of that ladder truck that was there, and it was there to serve the buildings that are downtown, and many of our buildings that are downtown are still the same as they were. We have the same hazards that we had 100 years ago, but we've not had that protection of that ladder truck. And for those of us who are here now, who've been here, some 5 years, some 10 years, some longer than that, we know about maybe the mill building that burned down about, almost 18 years ago now. But other than that, we don't really think about the other buildings that we've lost in our downtown. But if you think about where the parking lot is outside of Fifth Third, where the ATM is, it used to be the Wraps store there. If you look at what was there, if you look at that building burned down, we've had about a dozen different buildings burn in the last 100 years or so that really changed the skyline of the city. And there's been dozens more that haven't burned because we had the ability to protect those buildings from fire. And honestly, in the last 20 years, it's just been our ability to aggressively respond when we had fires in those buildings. I remember one in particular where the Lighthouse Cafe is at. We had a fire there maybe 10 to 15 years ago. And that was a deep-seated fire that was moving up into the upper floors, that we used the ladder truck, the old Grumman that we had, to be able to get to that fire. And that building is still there today and is fine because we were able to make an aggressive attack on that fire to be able to put it out. So is there somebody from the fire truck police that's gonna show up and, handcuff our city council members? If we financially just were so destitute that we weren't able to provide that service, then no, there's not a federal law that I'm aware of, anything like that. But there are standards about what should be there, and there are insurance benefits to us for having that. And we have just the last, really over 200 years of history of our city. And we were able to get to.
All right. And anything else?
No. I just wanted to say
Paul wanted to chime in. Let him chime in.
And this is just to help out also with your question. And by the way, if anyone ever handcuffs me, they have to do the dishes.
Great.
Ballpark it for me. Since the beginning of 2024 until now, general estimate, how many times have we had to make calls to other agencies to ask them to bring a fire truck here, ladder truck here?
I'm thinking we're 4 or 5, this calendar year, something like that.
Calendar year.
That's 4 or 5 times that we needed to have a ladder truck.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
10 times per year, probably.
Yeah. 4 or 5 times that we needed to have a ladder truck.
But I think that was my exact point, was we needed a ladder truck and one came.
Yeah, I wanted to say,
right?
I wanted to say,
no one was hating you. No one was hating you. You came up and asked the perfect question. I appreciate that.
No, but that's exactly what I was getting at.
Thank you very much. I had no problem with you coming out and clarifying that.
I appreciate the counter question because it lets us kind of showcase that these aren't an arbitrary decision. And I'll add to your point about the ISO rating and the reduced insurance rates. And that's very nice. Oh, I don't have to pay as much money for my housing insurance. But that's not just because the insurance companies like being mean to people who don't have ladder trucks. They're going to charge you less because less people will die. That's what they make those calculations on. Like the insurance companies know exactly what the stats are for people dying in these sorts of incidents. And they're saying that if you have a ladder truck, well, you don't need to pay as much into your insurance because there's a lower probability that you're going to die. So the money is real nice on your insurance, but I like to look at it as the stats of are you going to die or not? And it sounds like we're going to have a lower rate with the ladder truck, which is really nice.
I hope so.
So just to bottom line it.
The other comment is just for Jerry. The TNR portion of the proposed adjustment to the budget is for trap and release program. And we understand that there's been a change in our contract with the Humane Society of Dayton, and that will necessitate some extra funds on our part.
That's correct. Some of their grant funding is dried up, so the $5,000 we allocated last year is already used up, and we're only halfway through the year. And part of that too is the rehoming efforts to get the animals that are injured the proper care, and then find them a home that's away from here.
Yeah. I need a motion to. Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
I will motion.
Hold on.
Oh.
Nicholas Smart, 1433 Covington Avenue. What I'm hearing is there's a lack of funding on this issue. Some topics that have been brought up tonight, along with the infrastructure preservation, certified firefighters on site, this new ladder truck. I'm going to try to muddle my way through what I was proposing last meeting, and it might solve a lot of these issues. Our city needs a new fire truck, and all of our first responders deserve so much more. I would say that, I have 2 brothers that are police officers. They're probably watching tonight, so just say hi to Scott and Jack. They're probably watching. So I do want to marry this with our relationship with BG, with an educational aspect with Edison State Community College. I believe that would bring in additional funding. The partnership would allow us to build out a premier facility in back of Edison off Troy Sidney Road. I believe that is Troy Sidney Road. So it would be for Piqua Fire, EMS, Police and Rescue Services. I guess you could call it the Piqua Fire, EMS, Police and Rescue Services Academy. It would be logistically centralized for easier access from I-75 for neighboring municipalities, straight shot from Troy Fire Department, Sydney, Lockington. The facility be specifically tailored for first responder needs with first responder input. It would legitimize the facility from an educational standpoint, removes any conflict of interest between the location of the current facility at 9300 North State Route 66 and the Parks and Recreation homes, businesses, and the ability to use the Parks and Rec in the manner for which they were intended, which is in a non-nuisance fashion, free from noise pollution, irritants, or conflictive signage, with solace and respite from stress. Let's go there. So that's what the Parks and Recreation are for, okay? I think this kind of conflicts with all that at its current location. Removing quells all discord regarding this facility in regards to its location allows Piqua to get back to being Piqua, could act as a substation for Spring Creek. If you're listening, Spring Creek, you heard me. So it would be close to the entrance of the bike path on Troy Sydney, allowing for ease of access to downtown, close to amenities, would cost less wear and tear on our interior infrastructure, which we were just talking about tonight, from the heavy equipment going through our interior. It'd be closer to our coming hotel and dining investment. And this, I want to ask that it should not be a me thing, but it be a we thing. Because I know, DeBras, you're an alum of BG. You know, everybody has their specialties up here. Mayor, you work at Edison, you told me. So, and I know Chief Byron, you probably want the best for your men and women. Interim Chief, you probably want the best. You don't want them on contaminated grounds or grounds that, let's put it this way, grounds that had to be tested for contamination, okay? Because it was just Mother's Day, and I ran this past my brothers, you know, and they would say, like, no, that would be, like, disrespectful if I had to train
30 seconds.
on lands that had to be tested for contamination. So, and I have an uncle that spent 25 years on Dayton Fire Department, and he's in line with my thought process in all this. So, I'm speaking my piece.
You are.
You know?
And we passed it on, and we will continue to talk with
Well, it
Edison.
needs to be more than a me issue. It needs to be.
Time expired.
I need the enthusiasm.
All right. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
Mayor, I motion that we waive the three reading rule and grant the emergency emergency passage of this
Do I have a
ordinance.
second?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Mayor,
I need a roll call.
Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
Commissioner Holman?
Aye.
Mayor Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter?
Aye.
Commissioner DeBras?
Aye.
Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance O-8-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Can I have a roll call?
Commissioner DeBras?
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter?
Aye.
Mayor Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Holman?
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
All right. Ladder truck, I know that was going to excite people. We didn't want to sit on it forever, but we wanted to get that out there to you. And we probably could have marketed it a little bit better, but I've seen a picture of it in the actual fire department. It looks great in there, so.
And I just want to say thanks to all the departments and city and Mr.
Yeah.
Robador, for your staff. Yeah, we had kind of the
Byron.
easy job, just be here at the very last yard, but you
Yep.
guys did so much effort.
You did. You did the research.
Very
and you
much
went down.
appreciated.
Thank you very much. All right. Next on our agenda, resolution number R-73-24.
A resolution awarding a contract to Walls Brothers Asphalt Company for the 2024 Pavement Preservation Program Mill and Overlay Project.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Kyle Hinkleman, the Community Services Director. I know you are all aware, but I think it is important to say as in January when we kind of regrouped our departments, the engineering division lives under Community Services, and Kenton, as our manager of the engineering division, has done a phenomenal job as we have tried to find ways to better explain the programs that we do at the city. And I think the pavement preservation program, particularly the way that Kenton has envisioned some of the ways that we can tell our story a bit better, I think will hopefully help everyone understand the amazing amount of work that we do every year in terms of pavement. We certainly can do more, and we are looking to be better. But over the last 4 years, we've done $3.3 million in pavement projects just in those 4 years, and that is with 2022, where we did very limited amounts due to the incredibly high cost of asphalt. If we can all remember those days back when we were coming off the numbers that were incredible. So with that said, the next two resolutions, Resolution R-73-24 and R-74-24, are resolutions awarding contracts for the Pavement Preservation Program. And then the next resolution, which will come 74, is the ADA Curb Ramp Program. So in this case, the resolution will award there were bids put out, and Wall Brothers Asphalt was the apparent low bidder, and this resolution would authorize an agreement with them to move forward with the Pavement Preservation Program for 2024 in a cost of $783,000. If there are any questions about the pavement program, I think Kenton did a better job than I ever could to explain that, but if there are any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to address them.
Was low bid the only consideration, or were there other considerations?
So the law is lowest and best bid, right? So no, I will say the best part that we have, our engineering division is very thorough. So our bid specs, the team that puts together the bid specs are very well done, which protects the city in a lot of those cases. But no, we believe very strongly that this will be a project that benefits the areas that are getting the work, and it will be done well.
So they met all the scorecard needs, and but they just happened to have the lowest price, and that's what the deciding factor was.
The goal is always to get competitive bids, right? So we did get multiple bids, and the goal is to have bid specs that make sure that you can see that those are apples to apples. Everyone tries to give you an orange. The goal is to make sure that you're only looking at apples. So our staff is very good at drafting those, putting those together. So again, I'm appreciative of their efforts in that effort.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure we weren't sacrificing quality. It doesn't sound like we are, so good job on that.
Yep, worst and best.
Any other questions from commissioners? Questions from citizens?
I would move the approval of Resolution R-73-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes. Next is resolution number R-74-24.
A resolution awarding a contract to Grissom Construction LLC for the 2024 ADA Curb Ramp Program.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is the second piece to that, and I did want to note, you asked how many, and I don't have the number of curbs that have been redone since 2020, but $633,000 has been expended to try to bring these intersections into conformance further. What I will also say is, as part of our discussion with capital improvements, our goal is to be transparent about a plan going forward. So with our leadership, we're going to put together a capital improvement plan that is a little more transparent in that process, which will include, again, those curb ramps as part of that. So This Resolution 7424 is to authorize an agreement for the curb ramp portion of our annual program in the amount of $189,000 to Grissom Construction LLC for the 2024 ADA curb ramp program.
How many curb ramps do we think that gets us?
I should have counted this many. That many? I can tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm halfway. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. I believe 40 if I just counted that appropriately as quickly as I could. But
I thoroughly appreciated that.
I will note 3 of those are commercial drive approaches, not ADA curb ramps, so really I think the number would be 37.
Okay. And the money for this project would come from the street tax levy?
Correct. So the 103 fund that we utilize for pavement and for curbs, this is a program that we have every year. Traditionally, prior to 21, we were spending about $750,000 a year. Our goal to move forward is to spend somewhere between $1 million and $1.25 million every year to continue to enhance as we learn more about, as Kenton explained, the pavement condition, the PCI, understanding what roads need that support sooner. Our goal is to try to get to not have to take 28 years to be able to pave all the roads in our community.
Yeah.
Light feed that
So-
too? No.
I got one question for you. Now, these curb ramps that are at intersections, I had to respond at one point in time. I was driving down McKinley, and just past Grant, there was a guy who had been on a mobility chair, and he went to go up one of the curb ramps there, and they have those little. I mean, it's great that you have the slip-proof stuff so you don't slip in the winter, but there's those raised bumps, and he hit those, and that's what made his mobility cart go tip over. And I was wondering, is that still a thing? Are we putting those in, or?
Yes, those are standard specs for the Americans with Disabilities Act. So the specs that we utilize are standard specs, which do require the bump plates. Again, I don't know that particular situation, or the different wheelchairs deal with those differently, but that is the standard spec. I could look into who determined that spec, but I believe that is a state or federal spec that we have just, federal.
He was in a mobility cart, so it wasn't quite the same as a wheelchair. So those little 3-wheel carts, those things can tip. You gotta take it at a certain angle, so.
Understood.
But just thought I'd ask.
Any other questions from commissioners? Questions from citizens? I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R-74-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, sorry, yes, resolution number R-75-24.
A resolution awarding a contract to Performance Site Development for the Robinson to Maple Alley Sanitary Sewer Replacement Project.
Hello, Commissioners. We are here for a sanitary and storm replacement project. You have in your packet, you have a map of the areas. It's basically the alley of between Robinson and Maple, east of Madison, affecting about 20 homes. This cannot come soon enough for the pipe underground there. It's bad shape. We got every year out of that pipe, for sure. Another portion of this is there's a stormwater on South going up the hill from the Shell station there. We had a blowout about 6 months ago. We repaired temporarily. We're gonna fix the rest of that pipe. And then on Ellerman and Orr, there are some stormwater manholes that are in bad shape. So this project is taking care of all of those. This has been on the books for about a year now, so the utility board has heard about this. Bids came in under budget. Performance, the lowest bid was 10% lower than the other two. The funds on this, about 80% wastewater, 20% stormwater funds. and we built in a 10% contingency for the total of $422,000. Do you have any questions?
I saw where we're marking the street in green marker on the College Avenue heading into the intersection of College and South. Is that part of the same project?
No, that's not. That's, I would say, probably a center point project, a gas project.
Okay.
But I'm not for sure on that. That's not us. I would also like to, Nancy Toby from Access Engineering does our preliminary design on these and our engineer's estimates, and this is the 4th project in a row. She has nailed on the price. She's been on the right on money wise and just a little bit low. That's how you want it. You know, you want it to come in a little bit under the engineer's estimates, and it's been a very good. She's done a very good job for us the last 4 projects.
All right. Any questions from commissioners? Questions from citizens? I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution R-75-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next is resolution number R-76-24.
A resolution authorizing a purchase order to the Board of Trustees, Clear Creek Township, Warren County, Ohio, for a used aerial ladder truck and upfitting costs.
The earlier ordinance, we allocated the funds in the appropriations for this year. This is just approving the purchase order for that.
Any questions from commissioners? Any questions from citizens?
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution R-76-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last on our agenda is resolution number R.
Last on the agenda.
It's not?
Nope, second to last, we amended it.
Second to last.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Next to last on the agenda is resolution number R-77-24.
A resolution requesting authorization of an agreement with Stan Tech Consulting Services Incorporated for continued engineering support regarding Piqua hydraulic canal and dam system.
Hello again. In 2018, we chose Stantec out of a couple, 3 or 4 companies that bid on taking care of the evaluation, potential design, and construction of our hydraulic canal and dam system. This was mandated by ODNR in the 2019 reports on the condition of the 3 dams. Right after that, we got the first grant that we're about using up. So that was the HHPD 2019 grant. We're ready to start using the HHPD 2022 grant. And this would be to continue the work with Stantec on evaluating the systems. The first part was more on Swift Run, but it had an overview of all of them. This one will be a little more focused on Echo and Franz.
The work that they're doing, it doesn't involve draining any of those lakes, does it?
It does not involve draining. It is the evaluation to come in compliance with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources in regards to those 3 dams.
Thank you.
And there's only a 35% match required?
Yes. We applied for this about a year and a half ago for $550,000, and this will probably last about 3 years with extensions, and we'll pay 35% of the evaluation. This currently comes out of the water fund.
My understanding was that we held a meeting recently with concerned citizens about the hydraulic project, and that you have projected a date for the fall for the next meeting of that group.
Yeah, we don't have an exact date yet, but we'll probably wait till we get a few more updates from ODNR and from some of the work that's going on now with Stantec, and then hopefully have a public forum in the fall, early winter. Yeah. That would be a time frame, yes.
Good.
All right.
Kevin?
Yeah.
This has been your project for the last couple of years.
For better or worse, yes.
Well, now we're in it together.
I'm assuming since that this is in front of us, that you've been satisfied with the services we've gotten from Stantec to this point?
Yeah, Stantec has done a great job. They may not always give us the answers we want, but they are following the rules and guidelines set by Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and they are evaluating and coming up with potential solutions for our issues. So yes, I'm satisfied with them.
Thanks.
Any questions from citizens?
Yes, Nicholas Mart, 1433 Covington Avenue. I've inquired about Stantec before. I've done some research on Stantec. I have concerns about Stantec. I believe my fellow citizens should research Stantec thoroughly. You could just get on their website and do that. I believe my fellow citizens should go on PICWA-DamStudy2022.com and go over the proposals that are on the survey. But I would heed you not to answer any of the survey questions, just because I don't want you to give the city any misdirection on what your input may provide to them. I just want you to read the questioning and kind of see how ridiculous some of this is. One of the survey questions is the compact roller, put like gravel, compact roller over Franz Pond and concrete over Franz Pond, and there's a whole bunch of different scenarios on PICWA-DamStudy2022.com. Write that down, please. Stantec is concerning. I highly, that's 4 highlies, suggest, sorry, I'm chewing my gum, sorry, I can hear myself, that you table the Stantec resolution tonight, okay? Just put pause on this because I believe the citizens need to be informed. I believe they're not fully educated on Stantec just yet, and I believe in an informed citizenry, and I believe that needs to take place. I know, you know, mayor, 2-term mayor, former police officer, and you've expressed that, you know, you're in touch with the heartbeat of the community, and you know, many in the community have their interest in saving our waterways and making them unadulterated. And I think you share the same sentiments. Commissioner DeBras has shared the same sentiments about our waterways. So I know he's concerned. My fellow citizens, Adam Sees, Commissioner Homan, Paul Simmons, you're all about transparency. So let's, you know, let the citizens have some transparency. Give them time to study up on Stantec before we jump the gun and go full bore in with Stantec and go, you know, approve this resolution tonight. I just think we need to put pause on this issue. Okay, I don't want this to turn into round 2 of inviting every news station to Piqua, Ohio, and shedding bad light upon our city. We just don't need that. And I think this is going to shock a lot of citizens that aren't aware of, that aren't here at this commission meeting. They're out there, you know, cooking dinner for their kids right now. They don't know what's going on. But when it starts to go on, they're going to notice. They're not going to notice, like, oh, well, should it? You know, I mean, they're going to notice, sorry, Frank. They're going to notice, well, shoot, Franz Ponds is getting roller compacted and concreted over, and, you know, we're disrupting all the habitats up there. And you know, it just doesn't, all these scenarios. Another thing I would like is renderings. I would like pictures that if they could do renderings of what they're actually going to do, like provide us renderings, pictures of what they're going to do instead of me trying to picture this in my mind with all these scenarios they have laid out on this Pickwood Dam Study 2022.com. I need renderings from Stantec.
30 seconds.
Okay? I need renderings from Stantec. The community deserves renderings from Stantec. We want to see them right up there on that TV screen before we move ahead with Stantec in any fashion whatsoever. Okay? Stantec should be really, really concerning to every citizen in this room. Please speak up right now, tonight, if you know anything about Stantec, or if you wish to, voice your opinion.
Time has expired.
Thank you. Kevin, any rebuttal to anything he said?
I believe Stantec has done a great job. I believe they're doing what ODNR has asked them to do through us in evaluating our systems and coming up with a solution that keeps the citizens safe with the quality of the dam, how much water can pass through them, what are some potential high flow events.
What about getting renderings? Is that possible?
That is possible. We had at the CAC meeting last month, there were some renderings. Frank could attest to that. There were some aerials, some Google Street views of what it potentially would look like with slopes and removing trees and new spillways and stuff like that. So that is in the works. And this resolution keeps the project going to produce things like that for future meetings.
I think there was renderings when those surveys were taken that was what, last summer?
The surveys were a year and a half ago. They were preliminary feelers to see what the citizens of this city thought of some of the ideas out there.
Yeah, I remember going
at
to
that
those.
time, at that meeting, there were pictures and there were slideshows. There was PowerPoints of some, these scenarios, roller compacted concrete at other facilities, Buckeye Lake and some other places. So there have been pictures out there. I'm almost certain on that website, if you dig deep into some of those PowerPoints, there are pictures of the proposals or potential options.
Yeah, because I remember looking at some of those options and thinking like, wow, that sounds like a terrible idea. But the point of it wasn't to encourage us to select any particular one. I think the point was to show us what the different options were, some of them that were maybe more desirable being more expensive, and some of them that were less desirable being cheaper, and trying to gauge instead of just making an arbitrary decision as elected officials, or appointed in my case, that we got some feel from the citizens as to where were they on that spectrum of more expensive, more desirable, or cheaper and less desirable. Is that accurate?
Yeah, those two public forums, they're basically an education forum. They were trying to update the citizens that were interested at that time to understand the problems that we're facing. And the survey of those 6 potential projects was just a feel to see how the citizens felt about each of those different scenarios.
And then I'll just ask you again, and apologize for the redundancy, but voting yes on this tonight wouldn't result in Stantec draining any of the lakes?
This just continues them to do the work they've done the last 4 to 5 years in the capacity they have been in helping us meet our goals with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources.
Have you had any negative feedback from our citizens about the work that they've done, like in the last year?
We had one person at the CAC meeting said we should just start over and find someone else, but I believe, my opinion is that was because they just didn't like some of the answers, not that they were doing the improper work or doing the engineering properly.
I can help answer that. As someone who sat through, if not all of these, the majority of these meetings, the assignment that we have given Stantec is not a fun assignment, and that what they're coming back is essentially based off of the absurd regulation that ODNR is trying to make you comply with. Here are some possible scenarios that would get you into compliance. And so obviously when those things came back, the first 6, there wasn't really any of the 6 that we liked. We thought they were all garbage and they were all terrible. And this newest proposal or rendering or work product that they produced, it was a little better and starting to show some progress. But again, to be completely honest, until we get the rule and the regulation changed, I mean, Stantec is only presenting what's actually going to get us in compliance. Right. So I got to admit, after the very first meeting, I wanted to fire them 2.5 years ago. But as I've got a better understanding and grasp of the situation and what their assignment is, I mean, they're, as Kevin said, they're giving us the answers, and sometimes we don't like the answers,
Like 'em,
but
yeah.
they're taking what the rules and regulations are and mapping it to our system and what we can do to try to come into compliance with it as it is.
Bottom line is they're consulting.
Yes.
And that the final decision will come to the commission on major issues with the hydraulic project.
Yes, sir.
Kim?
Kim Heisler, 1802 West Parkway Drive. I kind of want to model what Nick had said a little bit, and maybe we could table it and spend a little bit more time so the folks can actually do some more research, even though it's been out there for 2 years. I mean, even you said, you know, the first time you looked at it, it was kind of bad, and then it got a little bit better or whatever, but at least it gave you a chance to read into it and stuff like that. Maybe the renderings could be brought up again, and maybe we can look at, like, long-term in each of those things that's done, what happens long-term if they do this, what happens in long-term if they do this, and long down the road.
Stantec isn't doing any of this work. They're simply providing, here are some options for you.
Have they ever put any equipment on the city of Piqua property to this point?
To test.
They have done some geoprobing and put in some piezometers to check water levels in the ground.
Are those the big gray boxes there at
I
Swift
wouldn't say they're
Run?
big. They're about a foot by a foot squares. There's, I think, 6 of them up there by Swift Run.
When did they do that?
Last summer.
That's the first time they put any equipment on public ground?
Put something into the ground.
On public property? to
In
do
Piqua
testing?
or anywhere?
In Piqua.
I'm not gonna go on the record for that. I'm not exactly sure, but that's the last thing that they've done out there. That is, they've put these piezometers in and they monitor them, and once a quarter they come get the data off of them to see how much water is actually in the ground, to see if the slope, if the seepage, how the dams are performing.
So in that equipment, does
I wouldn't
that-
call that construction, that's monitoring.
No, equipment, right, monitoring. But in the long run, what are they testing for and what is it gonna become?
The report,
Right.
that was in the evaluation, the 400-page evaluation has been made public since January on our
Well,
website.
but I'm asking you, what does it say? In short,
Right
do you
now,
know?
they're saying that these dams were constructed 100 years ago. They don't have records how they were made. They don't know the techniques that were used with the concrete. That's a hard sell for them to make to ODNR to say they're gonna be good for another 50 years. That's why they're gonna continue to evaluate them.
So how are they testing, what are they testing underground though?
The water.
Where the water table is.
Piezometers check water that seeps, all dams, all levees seep some amount of water through them. They're monitoring that. They check what types of soils when they put in those piezometers. They check this, is it sandy loam, is it clay? They're trying to recreate how these were made so they can predict how to fix them to keep them going in the future if need be.
Okay, so if they find out it's the right type of soil and the parameters are correct, what is their end result for this? What have they proposed?
Right now, for Swift Run's the only one that has any definites. We believe this fall, when the inspections are done, it could be declassified to a Class 2, and that would entitle a new another new spillway to keep it in operation. And fortifying the levee, removing all the trees, making some berms for the water to give it a place to go, blocking it off from echo from the rest of the canal. These are some of the initial things if we want to keep Swift Run as a Class 2 structure.
Okay. I still say, table it if at all possible so we can do more research on it. I mean, it's really easy to believe what people say, but looking out long-term, because don't we have like how many year contract do we have with them?
This is to renew the contract for the next grant. So right now, they have no money. Technically, we have the money, but they don't have a contract to keep doing the study.
For how many years?
Well, it'll be at least 1.5 years till the grant runs out, but last time there was 2-year extensions because you can get extensions on the grants. The one in 2019 just ended in 2024, to give you reference from the first grant.
It would still be nice to be able to table it so you guys can do research as well as we as public.
I'm not sure what research can be done in that time frame that is going to tell you to use Stantec or not use Stantec at this point. We've used them for 4 years.
Is it going to turn
30
into
seconds.
a energy project like the solar project? kind of?
Energy project.
Okay.
I don't see why this would be anything related to energy or solar. This is to come into compliance with our 3 dams, Franz, Echo Lake, and Swift, for ODNR, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. We have to do this.
Okay.
There's nothing to do with anything else except that goal.
All right, thank you.
Kevin, if I understand the situation correctly, kind of this quick summary is that an Ohio department made a new regulation and just forced it down on us. And they said, hey, you got to get rid of these lakes and these dams to be in compliance. And what we're trying to use Stantec for is to try to figure a way, can we weasel out of that somehow? Can we, with minimal change to those lakes, minimal change to those dams, still maintain compliance? You know, they're essentially trying to help us figure out how to do this as minimally invasive to what's currently there as possible. Is that more or less correct?
The problem with our 3 dams is, the main problem is the capacity. They cannot pass the amount of water that Frank was alluding to in these astronomical rain events. That has been on the books and the reports for decades. They've told us they cannot pass that. Our turn has finally come where ODNR is coming to make sure we start doing something about it. This has been pushed down for 15, 20 years. They're coming to us now saying, you need to do something, you need to come up with a plan to come in compliance. So that's what Stantec is helping us do.
Oh, go ahead.
I hate to come up for
Your name?
Jeff Grimes.
Thank you.
I hate to come up for everything, but so Ohio Department of Natural Resources is telling the city of Piqua what they have to do, but doesn't the city of Piqua own Swift Run, Franz Prawn, and Echo Lake? So is there any way that other towns have had to deal with the ODNR on these, and have you checked on how they are fighting this? What was it, Frank? Was it 27 or 28 inches of rain?
27 inches of rain in a 24-hour
in a 24-hour period.
And yes, there are other localities in the state of Ohio who've had to deal with this. The last one was Buckeye Lake.
Buckeye Lake was one of the larger ones, yes.
And at Buckeye Lake, what happened was there at Buckeye Lake, the local municipality did not try to get on front of this, and the state came in. And
Actually, Buckeye Lake was owned by the state, so it was not owned by a city. So the state came up with money to fix Buckeye Lake.
Yeah.
Because they owned it.
But they had, and correct me if I'm wrong, at Buckeye Lake on the dam, they had houses and all kinds of things. And
yeah, they had dozens of houses on the dam, on the levee.
And so they came in and completely wiped that out. And if you've seen it before, it's changes, and seen it now, it doesn't exist. So to get to where you're going with this, if we don't act, this is one of those good old government unfunded mandates, right? The Ohio Department of Natural Resources, regardless of whom, quote unquote, owns those waters, is the regulating entity of those waterways. So we can either come up with a plan to fix it ourselves, or ODNR will come in and will take jurisdiction over them, and they'll fix them however they want, which will be the least expensive scenario, which will be to drain them all and be done with it. So it is really in our best interest to put forth the time, the effort, the money, the resources to try to come up with a solution that gets into compliance and allows us to have some say in that process. And one more thing, and then I will give you your time back, is that the other thing that we're working on while we're doing this work is working with our state elected officials to get this asinine regulation changed, or to get some type of exemption, grandfathered in, some type of breathing room from the state on this particular issue. So much so that we've already had folks from ODNR here. Our state senator was here 2 years ago, year and a half ago.
Last fall, I believe.
And toured the site and sat down and received a presentation from the city manager and Kevin as far as what this mandate was doing to our city. And then we took them to the heart of the city and walked the entire, well, we didn't walk the entire thing, but we went to all 3 bodies of water so they could actually see what their regulation was going to do and its true impact. So there are a couple different avenues to attack this issue, but continuing to engage with Stantec as a consultant to offer us possible solutions that we could pursue to come under compliance while we're fighting the political side of it is in our best interest long term, so that we continue to have a say in what happens to those. If we just say the hell with it, we're not, come on state, go do it, they come in and then we're at their mercy.
They can give us the most expensive option. We don't want that.
I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around on actually, everything that's going on, because obviously this is such a asset for the city. Not many people have this type of thing.
No.
So my suggestion is, if they're worried about a catastrophic flood event, is there any way that the Miami Conservancy District could help us with this?
So it's funny you bring that up, because we've had this conversation with the Conservancy District. And as you know, the Conservancy District here was here a couple months ago.
Yes.
Going through their needs and their reassessments and those types of things. But here's the larger problem in this, is that let's say that we do everything ODNR would like us to do to come into compliance. Kevin, where do the spillways go?
The spillways? They go to the Great Miami River.
Yeah. So if we get 27 inches of rain in a 24-hour time period, and we're going to pass all of the water that comes in from Echo and France and Swift Run to the river,
It's very likely that the whole area was raining that much, not just our watershed, yes.
so that's the problem with the Conservancy District, is that by us coming into compliance with ODNR, it's really the chicken or the egg. Which one's going to flood first? France, Echo, Swift, or the river? When ODNR was here, I pointedly asked them the question, you're making us do this for the canal. We don't have to do it for the river. So how can you sit there and tell us that the people who live on the other side of the hydraulic canal's lives are more important than those who live on the other side of that levee bank for the river?
Anybody with any common sense would say that if we get 27 inches of rain in a 24-hour period,
we're all in trouble.
Well, there's going to be a lot more towns than just us that are, we're done.
Yes.
Pretty much.
And that's the argument that we're using to fight it on the
Time has expired.
You get some, go ahead.
On the political.
Can I get a little bit more time?
Go ahead.
That's the
Because
argument.
I'm actually agreeing with you guys on something for once, I think.
Nothing to do with it. He
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with it. He talked and said he would give you your time back, so.
I'm
take
glad
your
he
time.
said that, not you then.
Well, I was gonna give you your time back anyway, so.
Okay, I'll believe you on this one, okay?
And that's the argument that we're using and advocating for with our elected officials who ultimately ODNR reports to, is that, hey, look, while this is very, very well-meaned and well-intentioned, again, you're not looking at how this would actually, a real-world application. And for a city like us that has, if we get 27 inches, 24, I mean, so then, the counter to it is, well, you got to build the levee higher. At what point is enough?
Right.
Right. So now it's 27 inches in 24 hours. And who's to say that the time that when they redo this, that somebody's going to say, maybe it should be 40 inches in 24 hours, right? I mean, sooner or later, this has to stop. And hopefully we will be successful in this effort in getting some type of reason back into this.
And who for the ODNR came up with this crazy figure? Do we know that?
So it's part of, this was ultimately a result of Hurricane Katrina. So they've taken a FEMA guideline that was issued after Hurricane Katrina. And FEMA did an earthen dam study and made recommendations. And then all the various states began taking those FEMA regulations. And some states, and Ohio was one of these, they hired a consulting firm, right, to do some theoretical map to determine what is the, most extreme likeliest. I forget what the acronym stands for. Kevin, can you help me?
PMP,
the maximum probable rain.
Probable
event.
maximum precipitation.
Yeah. So somehow they ran some numbers and did some voodoo science thing that I don't understand and came up with this magical number and stuck it in place where the levee bank, the river, and all the dams in our area were designed for the 100-year flood event. They were taken off of the 1913 flood, and that's what everything was designed to. Well, this takes it from a 100-year flood, the 27 inches in 24 hours, is a 1 in 1 million to 1 in 10 million year flood event.
So we're talking catastrophic event for the entire area that gets that, so.
Yes.
Biblical.
Correct.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around what government official came up with the 28 inches of rain. And if Katrina was, if I'm remembering correctly, that was New Orleans, right?
Yes, sir.
And New Orleans is below sea level.
It is.
And I do believe that they forgot to turn the pumps on.
Yeah.
They did.
So, like I said, I'm just trying to wrap my head around who came up with the 28 inches, and maybe we could fight that. And just because something that is 100 years old, 9 times out of 10, something that's 100 years old that lasted this long is built better than what we've got now.
Sometimes.
I'm not saying everything, but it's already lasted 100 years.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm sure that we're going to have to do something with the dams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like anything, any type of massive infrastructure, you have to reinvest in those to ensure their longevity. And so, yes, we're going to have to do something, but at this point in time, it's trying to find that, what we need to do and where that regulation needs to be.
So a suggestion that I have, and I'm not an engineer or anybody, but all that is draining from the west side of Piqua, which right now is kind of farmland. We also have Deming Road, I'm not sure, I can't remember, Decker's Lake, that also is feeding into the creek. So maybe we could take a buffer zone out there and build a couple more ponds that would absorb that type of catastrophic event, so then that would keep it from coming into the Swift Run. And I know a big problem right now is Sunset, once that creek passes Sunset. So maybe something out past Clayton Road. I don't think we had all that problems until all the houses were built there, because it was kind of like a buffer zone. So maybe if we would go out past that and think about some type of a pond that would, I don't think you can build a pond deep enough if we get 28 inches of rain.
You ought to see the pictures of Swift Run Lake after the 1913 flood. If you haven't seen those, it would be good to get to the library and see those. They are catastrophic. And it blew out the whole area there. And again, and that was only, 13 inches of rain in 8 days or something. It was a strange number. But again, Swift Run was totally blown out by the 1913 flood.
Do you have any other suggestions?
And I wasn't around then, so I
I.
didn't know that. But thank you for that interesting thing. But like I said, this is like insanity. 28 inches of rain.
Yes.
So maybe some effort should be put into having other towns that are dealing with this combine and try to get that so that
in the state, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but are there any others left besides us who have this type of?
Yeah, there are still some. There's some eastern, southeast Ohio, east Ohio. There's some that are reservoirs with drinking water supplies and stuff. So there's still
a couple
There's still
left.
a bunch of them out there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think you're suggesting that we fight this this is the bad law. I think you're suggesting that we fight it, and I think Commissioner DeBras laid out several ways in which we are tangibly fighting it.
The legal aspect is one of them as well, so we could go to court and tie them up and.
But while we're fighting it, we still have to.
We have to have an
we still
idea.
have to knuckle under.
Yep, we still have to prepare. So.
Just like I said, unofficial Facebook is, this area is dear to, I'm going to say 95% of the community, and the amount of kids and citizens and non-citizens that enjoy this is phenomenal. So I can commend you on fighting this and having our waterways saved.
Yeah, it is. Quite frankly, it is the biggest issue that I ran to be a part of the commission over. So I will.
Jeff, I think that's going to be your time. So
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
Nobody else? I will
Motion.
ask for a motion.
Adopt resolution R-77-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next is resolution number R-78-24.
A resolution amending the city manager's contract.
Who is going to talk on this issue?
So it is my understanding that this resolution.
Wait a minute, Human Resources. You want to say, you don't want to say?
Would you like a copy?
I don't, yeah, I didn't have a copy from executive session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Homan.
Not a problem. Hopefully that's the right one.
Yeah.
I'll share.
Several amendments.
Yes, it is.
Did did they make a motion to add this on the
Yeah.
floor?
They
already did all of that. Did they? I'm sorry, I was chatting. So this is a resolution to amend the city manager's contract. His existing contract did not have a term limit. This amendment would add a term, amending the term limit to May of 2024 to May of 2026, with some additional provisions to allow for an OPERS contribution from the city in the event that the commission terminates the city manager's employment, with a payout for employment with the OPERS contribution. Currently, the contract allows for the payout for employment. The addition for the OPERS contribution is the amendment.
So if we do this and the city manager decides to go somewhere else, it doesn't affect anything?
It would if it were OPERS employment. If he sought and obtained OPERS employment, the contributions that we are making would stop immediately.
Questions from commission?
The other, I have one question here, and that is, his contract, and this is only because I just kind of learned on my phone regarding a community to our south, which has brought this question up. So let's hypothetically say that the city manager is I don't know, arrested for a DUI, or some type of actual criminal conduct. That makes this null and void, correct?
If he were charged with a felony conviction, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just charged or convicted?
Excuse me. Yes, if he were charged and convicted for a felony, yes.
Paul?
So if the city manager were to be let go by the city commission for something that wasn't necessarily criminal, that would result in arrest, but there was other behavior that was not acceptable to the public. This would basically, and I know we have to pay him a year's salary, but this would add to that, we would wind up contributing to retirement.
Yes, this does amend the contract that in addition to the payout of salary, that the employer would also make the OPERS contributions.
Jim, no comment? Questions from citizens?
Nicholas Mart, 1433 Covington Avenue. Are we privy to this payout amount as citizens?
Yes, you would be. It's a public record.
Tonight?
We wouldn't know.
I don't have that.
We wouldn't know the amount tonight. This would be a to be determined amount.
Okay. Okay. You know, I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Orbendorfer. We did get to clean the bike path together, and we did, work on the city, and we walked out of those woods and we saw like 50 trash bags of cleanup of all that we had done. It was stunning, and everybody gave each other high fives. Officer Caleb was there.
Mm-hmm.
I just think we've been through a rough time as a city. Through the end of last year, and I think the city has some mending to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're still fractured. I think there's still a lot of distrust. Actually, you can tell just by myself, I'm questioning this Stantec and all these other issues. But I believe the city manager is a nice gentleman. I met the t-shirt and jeans version, but I think the sport coat and green version that's in these chambers might need some tweaking a little bit in relation to some of the stuff that happened towards the end of last year. I think that could have been handled somewhat better, a little bit better. And I'm not trying to pick on you or anything. I think you're a nice guy, and I think you know what I'm kind of alluding to. To speak to the numbers, I guess if we're not going to know the numbers, then we're not going to know the numbers. But I wish you the well, and I hope everything goes well, and we'll take it from here, I guess.
Thanks, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the numbers would be from this point in time. It was already written into the contract that it'd be a year of salary at the current rate.
Correct.
And then from this point in time to the end of the term laid out in this amendment would be another 11 months or so, I think we discussed. And it would just be whatever that fractional percentage is that goes into a retirement contribution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what the OPERS fraction is, but presumably that is calculable off the current numbers, even if we don't necessarily have that calculated at the moment.
Right.
Maybe somebody's got a calculator.
Kim?
Kim Heisler, 1802 West Parkway, and I was just going to ask what OPERD means, just so that we're clear.
Public retirement system.
It's a
Okay,
public
so just-
retirement system.
Okay, so the resolution or what's being proposed, is that like completely new? It's never existed before, or is that just specific?
What do you mean?
Like, what she presented, isn't that something that's being added
It's a resolution.
to this resolution? Isn't that always normal for any city manager, or is that new right now?
Well,
to
most
be-
city managers have a term period, but he was hired without one, basically.
Okay, so you're just trying to get it right, or it's being added in because we think there's some issue that's arising and trying to get ahead of the game?
I don't know of any issue that's rising.
Okay, well, I mean, I didn't know. I was just curious.
So,
Just because, you know.
but that's a good question.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. We coming? Say your name, please.
Jeff Grimes.
Thank you.
So, being a city manager comes with huge responsibilities. And I do believe that those responsibilities, maybe they didn't start with Mr. Obendorfer, but they were allowed to continue. I have no ill feelings for anybody, but he allowed the illegal activity to continue at 9300 State Route 66. And once that was discovered, it was shut down by the EPA. We still haven't had an answer on who was responsible for approving that the city bills were paid. I'm assuming that that was by Mr. Obendorfer. And he will get more money than employees that have worked for the city for 30 years. Don't think that that's really fair to city employees. And several times when he was asked questions, he would respond that that was above his pay grade. And I feel that that's unacceptable. So I don't wish any ill feelings towards Mr. Obendorfer, but I think the town is split, fractured, quarter here, quarter there, quarter here, quarter there. And he also applied for another job in Delaware. So he had said that he loved Piqua, he wanted to help Piqua, he wanted to stay in Piqua. And if that was the case, I don't think that you would put another job application in Delaware. So I wish none of this stuff would have happened.
I agree.
You know, but it did. And you had to take responsibility for what happened underneath your watch. So I would suggest that maybe that it's time for him to move on. Just my personal opinion. No ill feelings towards Mr. Obendorfer whatsoever. But
I appreciate your
man,
opinion.
our town is messed up right now, guys. So, like I said, some of this stuff started before him, and I realized that maybe he wasn't responsible, but I think maybe the city could use a fresh start. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melanie Walker. I just want to say that I think, you know, we've not been here for 20 years or whatever, but what we've seen Paul do, I may not have agreed with all of it, but I think that he has done a good job and he has been a positive influence on this city. And I think that we should let him continue going as he has gone, and we should be supportive of him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don Smith, 333 West Green Street. I want to say a couple of things. Number one, as I listened to the commission this evening have your meeting, I heard a lot of really good things, because I heard how you were watching the budget, how you were being careful with the spending of the money, and I've heard Paul say more than once, if we're going to tear it up, let's make sure that underneath the surface of the street is okay, the infrastructure is okay before we put a new road down. In the past, we put roads down and then had to tear them up. And I feel like he has come into our city to do things that were previously started, and he has actually moved them forward and really put us in a much better position. One example of that's Lock 9. I'm not overly fond of the idea that it came here, but I'm very happy with the way it looks now, and I'm glad to see that it's happening. And I think those are the kinds of things that we have had beginning since Paul has arrived, that we've really moved forward on a lot of projects. So I am 100% in favor of keeping him here as long as he can be here, and I hope they don't hire him in another location, so he has to stay with us.
There you go. You weren't, yes.
No, I wasn't. Roland Sourmill. I had a talk with Paul 6-8 months ago about something. I ain't gonna say no names or nothing. I sent you a letter.
Yes.
And I talked to him about it. None of this was true. And I sold a car to some girl in Pickwick that used to work for the city. They got rid of her, this and that. And he's behind all this shit. He sat there and told me he didn't know nothing about, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? That me and you had one day? You want me to say the name? I don't want to. You sat there and told me it did not happen. You cannot find it. It happened, and you knew about it. Court enforcement. That's all I'm saying, court enforcement. You know about it. You know, look at Frank over there smiling. He knows about it and everything else. And I sent you a letter about it, and it happened. He sat there and said it did not happen. He said it did not happen. They're going to get me for slander. It happened. Why is he still working there? He can go, in my opinion. As I told him 6-8 months ago, I'll be here when he's gone. He said, no, you won't. See, he's trying to get a job already. Guys like him come and go all the time. We're city people. We're here to stay. We're here to stay. That guy's here to stay. I don't know. I've heard about you. I've known him.
I'm here, yeah.
I've known him for
years.
50 years.
50 years.
We're here to stay.
At least.
If it wasn't for my family, I'd be out of this town a long time ago.
I know.
He knows that. And I can go out of town. I have told this town all the time. Utility department.
Yeah.
I call him all the time.
Yep.
I get rid of a place 6 months ago, and the city's still saying to me, storage water on it. I call and ask him why. Oh, well, we don't know. I don't own the place.
Yeah.
Why am I still getting storage bill on it? Yeah. Storage water.
We're
I
gonna
got
help you. We're
$1,400
gonna help
water
you
bill
with
if I
that.
shut my water off.
We're gonna help you with that. Yep.
And I had to pay it because shut my house. They shut my lights off my house. This town stinks, but I got to stay here because I got family here, and I'm here for the. I'm here to try to bury me. Not in this town, Fletcher. But you know, I got to stay in this town. I got too much invested in this town.
You do.
But guys like him come here and talk to him about something, and he sat right there and lied to me about it. And this girl that told me this, they said he got rid of her. I ain't gonna say no names. You'll find out who it is sooner or later. Because I ain't told you nothing.
No.
I know a lot of people in this town. And I try to help this town. I do. You know, I'm at the point now, I've been bugged so much in this town by people, one person, whoever it is. I don't care about my place no more. I don't take care of my place like I used to. I don't think, every time I want to do something, I gotta pay $50 to get it, build a porch on my house. I gotta pay $50 to put a privacy fence up. I ain't gonna do none of that. I don't care no more. That's why this town shouldn't be like that. People shouldn't have what I mean, 50 years in this town. I ain't going nowhere. He's going somewhere, I hope. I had trust in him until that girl told me he lies. And I think any city manager should have authority over everybody. But he don't have authority. They're telling him what to do. They're telling him what to do. He might not admit it, but he don't run this town. They know who runs this town. As our government, I want to know who the big man is in this town. And who the other guy is. Who's the big man making all this money in this town? I try to check, I open my mouth too much. I try to check what people's worth. For some reason, this town, there's two people, you can't find their net worth. And they're running this town. Tell me why you can't find their net worth. I can find everybody's net worth in this town. Mine's in there. There's two people running this town, you can't find what they're worth because they're getting too much money pocket.
Just follow up on that. I don't think Piqua stinks. I think
I love it.
that there's been a lot of tangible things done, especially in the last 3 years. Talking to the business community and other people, business interests that are looking to invest in this community, they're looking at things like, what are we doing with our roads? Oh, well, now we're suddenly resurfacing them and doing maintenance on them that we weren't doing before, whereas it sounds like before you, Mr. Oberdorfer, we were just, we'd pave them, pay a bunch of money for them, wait 15 years, and then tear them all up and just do it all over again. But now we're taking very careful care of them to make sure that they're extending their life and that they're better for longer into the future. We've got things like the fire truck. We've been talking about ladder trucks for at least the 3 years that I've been aware of conversation about it. Lock 9, everyone in the business community said Lock 9 was just a project, a bridge to nowhere, never going to get done. All of a sudden, it's getting done.
Be done.
We've got all kinds of investment opportunities downtown, and a lot of other things that are going on as well. So I don't think that Piqua stinks, and I think that there is a lot of tangible things that have been going on. And one of the other things, too, is I think that some of the issues that the city does have that are being corrected are only now visible because they're being corrected. I think our slippage over the last few decades in ADA compliance is now more highlighted because we're actually focusing on it. Our slippage with the dams and the rivers and the lake, that's now more obvious because we're taking a look at it. And with the roads as well, and sanitation. I could go on and on and on. But yeah, I think you're doing a good job.
Yes, ma'am.
Cindy Pearson, 701 Wood Street.
Yes, ma'am.
I served on the commission here in Piqua and
did.
served as the mayor in 2022 and 2023. And during that time, the commission and Paul together developed a new strategic plan for the city, the future. And goals at that time were to institute a rental inspection program, finish Lock 9 on budget, and complete in May of 2024. 4 new restaurants opened in Piqua, redeveloped the old Red Roof Inn, redeveloped the Piqua Mall into the Piqua Center, by the way, that will host our July 4th celebration. And also we'll be constructing new apartments in 2027. Maintenance in our city parks, shelters improved, new signage, repaving the bike path, hiring Hampton to execute the day-to-day services at Echo Hills Golf Course, new maintenance building at Forest Hill Cemetery and Arboretum, new apartments at Lock 9, Water Street and Spring, maintenance of the Piqua Plaza, develop 875 acres by site selectors visiting our city, the Edison expansion of their curriculum in the nursing school, which now offers a BS degree in nursing. Piqua is moving forward, and my hope is that you will agree that Paul Oberdorfer and you as commissioners continue to work together, meeting the goals of our great community. Thank you.
Greg Needs. I think he doesn't deserve a raise at all, and I agree with Jeff. He needs to go. I was trespassed from here for no reason at all, and he's behind some of it along with Frank. Frank signed this. So I'd just soon see him gone. We've had nothing but chaos since he's been here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Peltier, 717 Codwell Street. I don't know if any of you have played sports, but I have, and I've not always liked my coach, but we've had one of the best teams in the area. We don't always agree with a great leader, and that's what we have here. And he's not looking for a job. I know him personally. People are coming after him. And if you talk to him, he's probably one of the most intelligent people that I know in a lot of issues. He's been at many different cities. He's learned a lot. And I try to congratulate him and say, hey, way to go, Paul, you did a good job. He goes, I've had great mentors. And we keep him, he could be a mentor for somebody in the future. We need people like this. We would be fools if we let this guy go. All you guys, I want to thank you for putting up with the kind of, I'll say, crap that you put up with. My father was city commissioner back in the 70s. Never had to deal with this, but he did have people call him in the middle of the night that were drinking or something like that. But what this man has put up with, he deserves twice the amount of pay that he's getting. And if we extend his contract just for a year or two, that would be one of the smartest things that we've done. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, on that resolution?
Yes.
That previously there was no end date on his contract, and this is actually placing an end date on his contract.
He wants one.
Okay. And the other thing was that there's nothing in here about we're going to let him go, right? It's just a matter of if the city manager, and this is the reason that I mention this is not just because of Mr. Oberdorfer. If we do this for this contract, any other city managers coming in, we have a history or a precedent of if that person is let go for cause, even if it's not criminal, that we would have to pay out their OPERS from that point until they either get another OPERS job or they reach retirement age, correct?
No, there would be no precedent, Commissioner.
No, I mean, there isn't a precedent now, but there would be if we.
The contract would end up being renegotiated,
Right.
would it not? Yeah.
I would respectfully disagree. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that
Right.
once you make a decision, that anyone coming behind that would have access, and that would be a public record, and they could certainly make the same request, but each individual would come in and have negotiating power on their own, and it would be a reset with each candidate, and you would be under no obligation to honor that contract because it was in place for the previous city manager.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we done this before?
We have not for a city manager, but we have with a previous employee, yes.
Thank you. So that technically then that precedent has already been set.
Technically, yes.
Thank you.
I will.
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution R-78-24.
I'll second it. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Homan,
Aye.
Commissioner DeBras,
Aye.
Mayor Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter,
No.
Commissioner Simmons.
No.
All right. That concludes new business. We are on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. I have nothing this evening for you. Thank you.
All right. We'll move then to commissioners' comments, starting with Commissioner Vetter, since You're probably gonna have a few.
Well, with the time element, I will waive tonight. I think we can, the one thing I would say is that we are getting ready for the Celtic Festival at the Johnson
Yes,
Farm. And,
yes.
this Saturday and Sunday, we're expecting big crowds and hoping that it will be a nice event for the farm as well as the city. So come join us, and I will be tired after 2 days.
All right, Commissioner Simmons, you're up.
Okay, well, first of all, coming this weekend, I wish everybody a safe and blessed Memorial Day
Yes,
weekend.
yes.
And Mr. Grimes, I think you and I should probably get together, and I think I couldn't think of a better co-author to help me get this ordinance for the no burning of hazardous waste material, or just hazardous material in city of Piqua. I would absolutely appreciate your help. And that's all I have.
Great. Commissioner DeBross.
Just a couple quick things, mostly shout outs, and I hope to goodness that she didn't tune in at all, but I'd like to start with wishing my wife a happy birthday.
Oh,
Happy
man.
birthday.
She's holding dinner.
You're here.
Sorry I didn't make it home for dinner, but she wasn't planning on that anyway. Her and my youngest had dinner plans without me. So the next thing, two other things that I'd just like to call attention to. The first one is I'd like to give a huge congratulations to all of the junior high students who were recognized last night at their top 10 awards. I was in attendance, as was Mr. Wessler, as well out there, and had a really good amount of kids who were honored from all of the teachers, and it was good to see them be recognized for their hard work and accomplishments in the classroom. And then kind of on that education note, I do want to take my last thank you, congratulations, is to a fellow classmate of mine, Sarah Jane Magato, who was recognized as the Piqua Teacher of the Year this year. And Sarah, from our time going to school together, could have gone and done anything she wanted to do. And the fact that she decided to become a teacher and to stay here in the city of Piqua to help educate our youth, it should be commended for her to do that. So congratulations, Sarah, and please keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate it. I'll yield back.
Thank you. I've known Sarah for a long time. I was a dare officer in her classroom. She's a great teacher. Commissioner Homan, you're up.
I'll just say, I hope everybody has a pleasant Memorial Day. It's not just a day off of work if you got one. Don't forget to take a second to, or at least maybe a couple of seconds, maybe a minute, to remember those who have fallen over the centuries so that you could be here today in this country. And that is all I have.
All right, and for me, I'd like to thank the city workers who retired successfully and wish them well in their retirement. Larry Wiles, Tammy Wright, and Jason Preston. And like I said, I got to work with Jason, great guy, and he retired as the deputy chief. He's a good man, and it sounds like he's got a promising career ahead of him as a bus driver, I think. So, but we need him. We definitely need him. So, I am so happy we got a ladder truck. I mean, I've known that it was in the works, and Paul and Chief Byron and our fire chief, Chief Adams, I'm telling you, these guys came together, and the city saw a need with 4 to 5 ladder truck calls with the first part of this year. We definitely had a need for it, and they made it happen, so I appreciate that. So please enjoy Memorial Day, be safe, and take a moment to remember and to be thankful. And with that, I will open it up to public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the city commissioners on agenda items. Comments are requested to be limited to 5 minutes. There will be, and you're being warned now, no cussing, no inappropriate or intimidating language or behavior, and no defamatory statements to anyone. And with that, go right ahead.
Valerie Mulliken, Director of Operation Veteran and Caregiver Support. I wanted to address not just the commission, but the entire community. Please come out on Monday morning for the Memorial Day Parade and the ceremonies at the Memorial Gardens out by Forest Hill Cemetery. Also this weekend, as we remember our fallen, we have a fallen. We have a recent fallen. Sam Pearson Memorial Day Run will honor our fallen on Saturday morning, and there is information on Facebook. If anybody wants it, I'll stick around and get it for you. If you would like to join that Memorial Day run, I would love to get you connected to that. Also, we have the pleasure of having Vice Admiral Phil Weiskup, coming into town. He will be giving part of a commencement speech on Friday night at Piqua High School. And on Saturday morning around 11 o'clock, I believe, there will be a ceremony with a memorial garden being attributed to him in front of the Piqua High School. And the community is invited to come out for that. And I believe, Chris, you will be speaking there, right?
I will.
All right. Also, keeping in mind our military and our veteran community, I would be remiss if I did not mention the collaboration between the City of Piqua and the Piqua Center and the upcoming Piqua Fest. I have to tell you, Operation Veteran Caregiver Support will be a benefactor of part of that festival. I am super excited to see how it's coming together. There's a great committee. There is an annual car show that's going to be coming back. I don't know if you guys remember having a car show at 4th of July out here. We did it last year downtown, and it wasn't very good because most of us that did it didn't know what we were doing. There is a great committee that has put this together. It is going to be a phenomenal day, and we're encouraging children to bring their model cars for the car show, and there'll be some wonderful prizes for kids in addition to our categories of military, Jeep, motorcycle, pre-1985, post-1985 van, and mini truck. And in addition to that, one other thing, we will be having a pinup contest. So if any ladies are interested in participating, it is free to participate, and there will be some great prizes, including Queen of the Car Show, Miss Congeniality, and Miss Patriotic. Refreshments will be provided, and rumor has it that there will possibly be, it's probably going to happen, a pinup swap kind of thing. So if you have extra goodies of pinup outfits or shoes or jewelry or whatever, they're going to have an opportunity to swap those things. And if you're interested in becoming a pinup, I highly recommend coming and learning about it. Thank you, guys. Have a great night, and God bless America.
God bless America.
Kim Heisler, 1802 West Parkway Drive. I know I've brought this up many times, and you guys are probably all tired of hearing it. But I still would like for someone to take the reins on this and find out the difference, why the evaluation on the old water plant is so high. I know you mentioned before, hey, we don't know how to evaluate land. Well, it's not you, it's the auditor. They should know when they go to audit that land what the boundaries are. They're professionals, right? So, and the concern is, and I think maybe you live close to there, but if the property value goes from roughly 700,000 to 8 million, what about the other properties around that? When you go to get evaluated again, your property value is going to go sky high too. And
not if it's a mistake and they have to correct it.
Right, but they have to correct it before they have the evaluation again, and it sounds like you're just going to let it go through the process.
No.
I think 2 weeks ago, Mr. Petrizio laid out that they had inaccurately brought in too much land and also thought that the water plant, the old water plant, was actually an active water plant, and that accounted for the mistake. Was that, I mean, do you not believe that? As well, you said that we didn't give you an explanation, but that's the best explanation that we have.
Right,
do you not
you gave
believe
me
it?
the explanation, but why aren't you getting an auditor to fix it
Aren't
instead
we
of
getting somebody
wait.
to, isn't somebody
Couple
fixing it?
reasons. One is we really don't get taxed on this.
I understand that.
We don't
but-
get taxed on it. Second of all, we don't control the auditor, and it's the auditor goes out and he's the one that appraises properties and things of that nature.
What
The
about-
city of Piqua, quite frankly, the value on it doesn't really matter to it. We have it insured for a certain amount based on what we believe the value of it is.
I understand
So
that.
I know you want it changed, and the auditor's office said they put a note on it next time their evaluator came in to evaluate that property. I don't know what much more we can do for you. I mean, you can call the auditor and ask them yourself and
I will do
discuss
that.
that with them. That's the explanation I have. I don't have control over the auditor. I can't say, go out there and do it now. They'll send an auditor. They do appraisals, I think, every 3 years, so when the next time they're in that cycle, it'll get appraised.
Is there some, like, I guess, fraud or malfeasance you think would be caused by that you want us to look into? Like, I mean, if, like, we said the best we can find is it's a mistake, but if you think, or there's something that I can look into is like, oh, well, we took a big loan against that land or something. Is there something like fraudulent that you're alleging might have been related to
Well,
that?
I mean, I don't know, possibly. I mean, I don't know, but it's very suspect that it happened around 2017 when the battery burns started happening, that maybe that land was contracted since it's kind of close to that area, that there might be something that we're unaware of with maybe other corporations coming in, Stantec possibly, that is longer term going on. I don't know, but what happens if that auditor,
Demons.
how can I be sure that he appraised my land value?
May I?
Yes, please.
So, I think I may have a simple solution to this, that will try to jump in here between, we've asked the question and we've got the answer. And the solution to the answer that we've been given is not in the time frame that we would like it to be. So, here's my proposal, assuming it's legal. Can the city send a letter to the auditor requesting them to reevaluate that parcel?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. It won't guarantee anything, but we can certainly put it in writing.
I understand, and I'm very cognizant that we cannot compel the auditor to do that reevaluation, but can we at least go on record?
Can we do it as a resolution even? Like, a resolution for you to send it?
You'd have to ask.
Just a letter.
Look, we have to have relationships with the auditor. I don't think we want to get into a irritable.
Can we just send
a letter would be fine. That's
And if
fine.
you go down there, or if I call, I'll call. If you think that would help as well, and you call.
Yeah, please, that would be
You
great.
call as well.
That would make-
And so now, are we?
Yeah, I mean, I'll call, I mean, ideally, we'd like to know what that is. If it was a mistake, that's great.
Sure.
But why wait 3 years to find out maybe if there was
30
something,
seconds.
Right?
Yeah,
I appreciate
so
that.
let's,
Thank you.
we'll make the official
I'll call the
request.
auditor.
You'll do that then?
I will, and
I'll-
you
I'll
call
and
too.
you call
And let me
Okay,
know when you call.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe when that letter's drafted, it can just be included as like a supplement to your report in the packet.
I'll have it in the agenda packet.
Thank you.
Nicholas Marr, 1433 Covington Avenue. I guess I'm going to beat a dead horse here. I would like to see the partnership with BGSU and Addison State for an ecological and wildlife studies curriculum that is open to the public, sort of along the lines of Bruckner Nature Center. Should be a site that is educational and welcomes our youth to garner interest in ecology and wildlife, and hopefully an expansion to a museum of natural history, emphasizing science, technology, and discovery, and a possible observatory due to less light pollution on 9300 North State Route 66. This area would be a much-needed asset to the surrounding, let me turn the page here, surrounding parks and recreation, and more conducive to its surroundings. It would aim to engage our youth in health and fitness by riding their bikes out there and capture their interest in potential future career opportunities and get them off their video game systems. I think this would be a valuable asset for our community. I'm tired of trying to win arguments, and I want to come up with solutions. Now, I think the solution of moving the fire training facility and marrying that with a program with Edison State Community College and making it legit instead of trying to force square pegs through round holes and disrupt everything, and it being a disruption out there at 9300 North State Route 66 with the Hampshire Company, with the bike path. I don't have to, we're going insane trying to repeat all this. I mean, what I had proposed earlier for the fire training facility is spot on. I don't understand why aren't people are probably more interested in this than I know. I don't know, but maybe they didn't hear my presentation last meeting because I kind of muddled my way through it the best I could because you asked me to recant my email that I sent to you, and I didn't do a good job of recanting in the moment.
You said it earlier. You're saying it again now. Keep going.
Yeah. I hope they caught earlier in this meeting what I said about the fire training facility. Just go back and watch this so you can reevaluate what I said about the fire training facility. But right now I'm trying to elaborate on how this ecological and wildlife studies program, it would be a program between Edison State and BGSU, because I understand BGSU has to maintain an interest in the site. So I'm not trying to impede upon that. We're just expanding our relationship with BGSU. Some people might not like that. Some people, but yeah, there's a give and take, okay? So I'm trying to come up with a solution to move the city forward, okay? So we're not in this area of discontent, If we're in this area of mistrust, we're fractured, we're in this area of discontent, then let's stop the contentiousness. There's no use in being contentious. Only you guys can change that. Only you can change that, Mr. Oberdorfer. All you guys can change that. You have relations beyond just what I have. You guys have the relationships with BG, with Edison. You're all about transparency for the citizens. You've stood by that since day one. Homan, you've talked to me after we cleaned up those woods. I know you're for the waterways and keeping those waterways, and that's what I want out there too. I want to be able to enjoy those waterways. I've been out there fishing amongst, the people that fish out there. Sometimes they go out there to clear their mind. A lot of them are veterans and they have PTSD, and I've talked to them, and they use those waterways just as a respite to get away, to clear their heads. A lot of people use that for parks and recreation and to get a respite, a moment of solace, okay? So, I view it as, like Jeff Grimes says, a nuisance, whether that be a noise pollution.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
I understand.
I appreciate you.
Uh-huh.
On this rolling siren, on this thing that lady brought up about taxes, I buy houses in Bickway.
Yeah.
If you buy a house, say I get $20,000 for a house. If you buy a house for $20,000 and you pay taxes on the house, say $110,000. If you called Troy, they would send you a form to fill out, and you can put down, I gave $20,000 for it, I want to get my taxes lowered. And they would send you a form. Then they'll have a meeting, I can do a court thing down there. I do it a lot. Do a court thing down there. The school board comes in, why do you think we should lower the taxes on this? Well, I only gave this amount of money for the house. That's always appraised at. Why am I paying $100,000 worth of taxes on it? And they lowered it. So you can't say they won't do it. They do it every year. They'll do it if you get a hold of them when you pay your taxes. You still got to pay the taxes, but then they'll send you money back if they decide to lower. I mean, I think
That's for residences?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't pay any taxes on that
that ain't
property.
got nothing to do with it, Frank. There was a reason they took and said it's appraised at $8 million. Because when I bought my car lot, my taxes went up. I said, why did my taxes go up so much? Well, you gave $140,000 for it. I said, that's fine. I said, what about the house I just bought across the street? That's what got me into this. She said, well, what'd you get for it? And I told her $18,000. Well, we'll send you a form, you fill it out, and we'll have a meeting, get your taxes lowered on your property. And you can do that in town. You don't matter if you pay taxes or not on it. They will raise your taxes when you sell your house usually. 'Cause I just sold a house and the guy's taxes, it will go up, I guarantee you that. They do this every 3 years or 6 years, whatever it is. But if you buy a property, within a year, your taxes will probably go up. Like the one I ain't saying, it will go up. You give a lot more than the value it's worth.
Yeah, but that valuation was crazy. I mean, it went from real low to that much.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with her. There's a reason, did the city sell it to somebody that
No.
it's a secret? I don't know. That's what I'm
No.
saying. Why would they raise it that much money?
They included an extra property that wasn't in it, and they said.
I mean, it don't matter to me what
And
it's
they thought
worth.
that the water plant was in operation at the time as well.
I'm just
And
saying,
both of those
you
are
can
not true.
fill out a form and get appraised right with no
So,
problem at all.
yes, and so I'm gonna call,
I've
I'm
done
gonna
it.
say, can we get a reevaluation of it
Yeah,
sooner than later?
you probably have to do it probably by next March, probably.
Well,
Because you got.
all I can do is ask.
Oh, I know, because you can do it one time within that year. You got to do it within first half
Of the year?
Yeah, you got to do it by. They do in January. You got until I think March to fill out this form to get it done. Then when it comes and they lower it, they will send you a check. But you still got.
I don't know if it's gonna be different for city-owned property or not, so we'll find out. So, But thank
I'm
you.
just saying, I know how they work with me with it.
Well, I appreciate that.
You can get them lower. They don't have to wait 6 years or 3 years.
We're not gonna wait. We're gonna ask.
It's 2 or 3 months after the first of the year you can get it done. So you might have to wait until next year to get
Maybe,
it done.
but
I don't know.
maybe not.
I ain't smart.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Greg Neves. I'd like to know if you had anything to do with this.
Please don't.
You gotta come back to the
Nothing to do
podium,
with
sir.
that. Please don't approach.
City had nothing to do with that, sir. Thank you.
How do you know what it is?
Oh, it's the talk of the town.
There you go. Chances are fairly strong that if I'm out and about, there's 100% a gun within my reach, period. Don't play with me. You best play with Jesus, because you head this way with bad intentions, I'm going to send you. Here's another one. Sorry, not sorry, but there should be a law that allows you to knock stupid straight out of someone. We could call it community engagement. And here's a good one. It's got Mike Tyson on the front of it. It says, social media made you all way too comfortable with disrespecting period and not getting punched in the face for it. I could read you some more. It's really, she talks about, she's knocking on Ashley. Piqua Walmart must be running a sale on cattle and bowling pins, because I swear I just saw an upside down bowling pin grazing through the aisles. Unfortunately, Bessie the heifer had a child with her, so I had to maintain, because had the calf not been with Lord beheading to the pasture. Feel me? This is the kind of people on your board that you put on there. As far as I'm concerned, what she has done is defamation. I've not talked to that woman. I don't care to talk to that woman. And if I can, when I talk to my lawyer, I'm going to see if I can't sue. This is pathetic. Look at a few of them.
Okay, thank you.
She should be kicked off the board immediately. Also, when she's got so many gun threats in there, I think we should have a metal detector out there. I don't trust her. As you can see on the top one, she's aimed at those of us in that constitutional lawsuit. That's what that's all about. So you already know we got a target on our back with her. And I've also heard that another board member has come in here carrying, concealed.
Do you have any evidence of that?
No, I was told. I don't have evidence. I was told by a very reliable source.
Greg, what's your shirt say?
Toxic Piqua.
Home of, I couldn't see the rest of it. Mickey Mouse. Go.
I don't know what the rest of it says.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. She needs to be dismissed.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention, sir.
Jeff Grimes, thanks for staying late, guys. My stomach's growling too. Real quick, no more burning anything at 9300 State Route 66. Save our waterways. Scenic River. So it seems to me that everybody's wanting me to ask questions now. I'm the unofficial question asker for Facebook page. So tonight I had a lot of people asking me if you've heard anything about Moat Park progress. A lot of concerned citizens.
Moat Park is getting a frisbee golf or disc golf course put out there. But if you're talking specifically about the power project, no, but we'll get an update from the park board here shortly.
Okay. A lot of people were concerned about what's going on at the old Wilder School lot. A lot of people want to know about the Red Roof Inn progress. There's some rumors going on about that.
Do you know any of the rumors?
Yeah, but...
you don't want to say?
You won't let me have that much time.
All right. You can tell me afterwards if you got time.
Then, even though I had called the auditor's office concerned about the 9300 State Route 66. And
what did they tell you?
They told me that the city of Piqua is responsible for providing info, and the city doesn't have purchase or sale prices on many of the properties that they own or buy and sell. And they said that the city doesn't have to do that. So that it's concerning that both, I don't have the figures in front of me right now, but the new water plant also has an appraisal along with the old water plant. And just off the top of my head, that it said that improvements to the old water plant were, I think, don't quote me, $6 million, $7 million, $9 million. So just, you know, that doesn't say anything about land. It says improvements. Thank you. But, you know, we've already been over this, so maybe we could go over this other times, because I got
I will ask.
a couple other things that
I can definitely ask.
were concerning to people in town. The Main Street and Wayne Street and Downing intersections all have double green lights. But if you have a car that is facing like where they're putting Lock 9 and they want to turn left to go downtown, or if they're facing the other way and they want to turn to the left also to go out of town, it's impossible, because when you turn up to those two green lights, one car goes there, and then you have to wait for the whole entire town to leave, and then one car gets to turn. So I would appreciate you guys if you could do something like at High Street and Sunset, where it had a turned green arrow on the one light for the turned green. I think that would eliminate a lot of traffic issues downtown.
A good suggestion.
And then also, South Street and McKinley, if you're coming in from Washington Road and you try to turn to go like towards BK Root Beer, that light lasts for like 20 seconds. So if there's one car waiting to turn, then it gets backed up all the way past Clark Avenue, 4 or 5 o'clock. It's an absolute nightmare up there also. But I know that that's a limited intersection, but maybe you could see.
They can do a light study on that to find out why it lasts so long.
Well, it doesn't last long enough.
It doesn't last long enough, you're saying?
If one car is coming in town and it wants to turn left to go to BK Root Beer, and there's any other cars that it has to wait for, then that light turns red and only one car gets through. So that's a limited
30 seconds
base intersection. I should get another 5 minutes because you guys shut me off last commission meeting because we didn't get a tornado. But
we didn't, but they're hitting.
And thank God we didn't get the
and
tornado.
It went to Covington, and but still.
So let me make these real quick, and I'll get out of you guys' hair. On your commission meeting rules, people from the outside of Piqua are affected by Piqua's decisions.
Time expired.
Can I just finish? I got like two more, okay? So I think that you guys should allow anybody that wants to speak on an issue if it concerns them. I think that's what you guys are here for. And then a lot of ladies tell me that they don't want to come to the podium and give their addresses.
Don't have to.
Because of the...
Have I been asking?
No, I'm just saying, when we're passing all this stuff, that's another thing that people were really concerned on.
Okay.
And also, people don't want to sign up because they may not want to speak, but then if something comes up with the agenda that they're concerned about, then they want to come up and speak. So.
Great points.
Thanks for talking.
Can we make sure we answer his questions by the next meeting?
Yeah, some of those questions can't be answered without having intersection studies and traffic studies.
And that's the answer, though, but I mean.
Right, and so a lot of that's already in the works. It's just, it takes time, several years to get that done.
And I realize it takes time. I'm just trying to tell you guys what people are telling me in town, all right?
Appreciate that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Kay Neves, and I just want to clear up some misinformation that's been put out about Alicia Lang. I know that Benghazi Rabbit coming to town has been laid at her feet. There was a Facebook post where someone did a live earlier this week or last week in town. They actually admitted that they were the ones that brought Benghazi Rabbit to town. It was not Alicia. I just want that made public. And also, there's been a lot of comment about her. Why doesn't Alicia pay for water testing and soil testing? Because she makes so much money off of YouTube and TikTok. Excuse me, I'm nervous. I'm
You're
not a
fine.
public
You're doing
speaker.
great. You were
I'm
doing
not a public
great.
speaker.
Yes, you're fine.
But I've done some research on that in the last few days and looked at her numbers, how many subscribers she has, how many views she's had, how much they make it's per ad that they get paid. The most that she could have made in the last month would be $48. So there's no way that she would be able to pay for testing like that on $48 when it costs, what, $15,000? Something in that area. I just wanted to clear that up for the record because it's been said multiple times. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I find it interesting that Ms. Lang did not distance herself from that individual at any point on her own or at any point near in the time to when certain incidents were alleged to happen. I think that's very telling that she didn't feel the need to distance herself from that.
She is now, I guess.
Well, no, she did not. She still has not, I would say.
Hearing no other public comment, I would move for adjournment.
Ooh, second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion granted. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Well, she can't.
Shame of you.
She should have came up and said what Kay said.
Now they're gonna criticize our